Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad.
Well, welcome home, family. It's your faithful mother and father. Or are we faithful? Are we traitors?
Help. Help. Somebody rescue me right now.
To rescue you from what, my dear husband?
This prison that I feel this show has put me personally in.
I'm like, prison for me. I have never felt more free in my life.
No.
My king, Alan Cumming, has inspired every bone in my body. And now I'm like, I can't, for the past 72 hours since I started watching the show, I cannot not be an Alan Cumming on this show zone.
Yes.
Like it's 24/7.
It's 24/7. You guys help. See, I didn't know the show's so good, and I was excited to get started. Now I'm kind of regretting we did this because what has created in our household is Jess just 24/7 finding ways to find like basic normal human things like a mystery. You know what I mean? So it's like I'll be in the shower.
I did Sorry, I did this to Evan this morning. Evan was having an alone moment in the shower.
Hold on.
He was scrubbing. An alone moment in an inappropriate way.
I was like a little.
Okay, excuse me. I wasn't going there, sir.
I'm just saying. You know
I'm just
what I
saying
mean?
you were having
watching me.
You were having a private moment in the shower. The door was closed. You know, it was steamed up, and so I thought it would be a good idea for me to pop in and scare the living daylights out.
And it's like I know you too, and we didn't even confirm this, but I know you were using the steam as like smoke. You know what I mean? It's like fog to set the mood of like mystery.
So I popped in and did my full Alan Cumming voice, and I was like, "Is it the water dripping off your back that gives you a sense of betrayal in the mist?" And he screamed because I scared him so
and
bad.
it's terrifying, and it's also
so
like
fun.
It's also, I'll be honest with you guys, like I don't know how to be. You know what I mean? When someone's doing that to you, it's
you feel like I'm serenading you?
Well, Jess does this other thing to me, which is when we drive in the car, she'll like sing show tunes, but like at me, not like at the road. So it's like you're just a part of it. She'll look at me and sing them at me, but I've never heard a lot of these show tunes. So I'm kind of sitting there going, oh yeah, crazy. Like I don't really know what to do. Same with this accent and this whole bit now. And she looks, I'll be like cooking and she'll just be like, is it the sizzling sounds that haunt you in your dreams? Or is it the fact that no one can be trusted? And I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I get it. Like I'm cooking. I love you, but I just don't know how to feel. I don't know how to be right now. And the beautiful thing about Jess doesn't deter her at all.
Absolutely not.
This is for her and for her alone.
The more annoyed he gets, the more I will press on amidst the Scottish Highlands. I mean,
it sounds really good. I will say it sounds really good, but the issue is not that I get annoyed.
Yeah.
It's far worse to just be more awkward and then have someone not care. You know what I mean? Like annoyed is at least just like a back and forth. This is more like I'm getting uncomfortable in my own skin and I don't know how to be, but you know what? As long as we recap this is going to be my current situation.
Yeah, by the way, if people have no idea what we're talking about in this moment, we are recapping the Traitors season 2. We are starting today with episodes 1 through 4. So just as a heads up, everyone, if you haven't watched episodes 1 through 4 yet, which I feel like most people have, but if you haven't, we're going to get right into it. And, we don't want to spoil anybody. But
it is what
the first 4 episodes. And I have to say to the family, I am so happy that this was voted on, that we recap this.
I didn't really know much about it before. And then when it got voted on and I kind of dug in, I was like, whoa.
This show is so good. Like, it has me captivated, mystified, giggling in excitement. And to go back to Alan Cumming, the best host that's ever existed on the planet.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that like he's not a retired like whatever. You know what I mean? He's not like an athlete. He's not a random person. He's not even a host really.
He's an actor.
He's an actor. And I think that is what makes it so good, is that you're dealing with someone who's like trained in the art of like acting. So, and that's what it needed. It didn't need a host. You know what I mean? It didn't need someone who's doing like talking a lot and like sitting down with everyone going, so what do you think we really feel?
But even when he sat down,
needed just like a haunting butler.
But
almost.
even when he sat down, when he talked to who he was going to decide who were the traitors and who were not the traitors,
full in character.
But he was like, even with the Johnny Bananas moment, when Johnny Bananas was like, what does it feel like to be the second best dressed on the show now? And Alan Cumming was like, back off, bitch. It was just everything to me.
Yeah.
And like, just to savor, it's a feast for the eyes, his wardrobe. Like Alan Cumming, every moment he steps on screen, I like gasp. To be involved in the wardrobe styling process of Alan Cumming would be the highest honor as a wardrobe stylist. I'm a past wardrobe stylist myself. Like watching this, it's just, Alan Cumming is, to me, our generation Shakespeare. I said it.
Okay.
I said it. The way he doesn't turn.
I mean, he's not a playwright.
Well,
so there's that whole thing.
But listen, I know that sure, some of the stuff is
He
scripted.
didn't create language.
Some of the stuff is scripted, but here's the thing. You can tell that a lot of it is off the dome too.
Yeah, for sure.
And the man, the alliteration, the puns, the way that he weaves a tale, I can't get enough of him.
Well, this brings me to how important it was they didn't do this in America, even though it's the U.S. Traitors or whatever. Right. Like they have other countries, then they have the specific ones.
Yeah,
they were
the
showing
UK,
preview, New Zealand, all that stuff, and they clearly do it in their country and that whole thing. But nothing would be less mysterious than like doing it in Van Nuys. You know what I mean? And the guy's like, all right, ex-retired football coach, whatever guy is like, all right, you guys, this is crazy. Like, make sure that you really pay attention because, can't trust everybody. Like, and we're in a warehouse in Van Nuys. Like, that would have been the American version as opposed to like a Scottish castle with Alan Cumming. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, like no shade.
They tried it in America and they were like, okay, this is the only country that we're actually not going to do it in. And we got to do it somewhere else.
There's nothing there's nothing mysterious. And like no shade to our, king host, JP, Jesse Palmer.
Right.
But can you imagine Jesse trying to pull off that?
They're like, well, you got to stop smiling.
They're like, you need to be mysterious.
This is supposed to be kind of scary and mysterious, and you're just smiling the whole time.
Please stop
And you keep
smiling.
showing up with like a nice haircut and like a suit, and it's just not working.
And it's just like, or like Nick Lachey trying to host it would be like, please, number one, please stop singing, Nick.
Yes.
Number two, please stop turning to the camera and doing like the slick back hair vibes.
Yes.
We needed to have Alan Cumming.
Absolutely. It's really good. And the fashion, like everyone's dressed up, and I think that also adds we're getting into this, right? Should we talk about?
I know, but I just have to say this. Everyone came to play.
Yes.
I'm just so hyped to talk about this.
Yes.
So sorry. It's going to be an explosion of my energy.
Yeah.
Because not only am I hyped to talk about it, like when I tell you, so Evan and I watched the show separately because we thought this one would be a good one to not watch together so that when we would sit down, we could like give our opinions on theories and
probably
gameplay.
try both.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what I mean? Just like, we'll try this and maybe the next time we watch together to see if we can.
I kind of like though not knowing what your thoughts are though.
I like that too.
But who I did watch it with was my daughter Ember.
Oh my gosh.
And Ember, talk about someone who's enjoying though my Alan Cumming impersonation.
Oh,
she loves it. She's participating with me.
There's an audience.
She's my audience. But she's obsessed. Like,
She's
has she been
obsessed.
talking to you about it 24/7?
Yeah, she's just like, Dad, have you seen the most recent episode of The Traitors? And I was like, no, I haven't. She's like, oh, okay, well, I don't want to spoil it for you. But I'm like, how am I talking to my 8-year-old daughter about Traitors right now?
She started watching the first episode with me, and she has such great gameplay. Like, I cannot even lie to you. Like, she's
like coming up with theories and
theories,
ideas.
and she's like, I bet that they're gonna banish this person before I'm even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And she's like, I would have gotten the shield in this situation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, Queen, we're gonna start prepping you for this show.
Yeah, I mean, listen, well, it's funny because she's so not that type too. But
I know.
When she watches movies, though, how many times does she guess like the ending, and we're like, oh, how did you know that?
It's because she
trained by you.
Well, sure, she's trained by me, but also,
I literally the second you even said it, I knew you were gonna say, well, because I taught her everything she knows.
she's trained by me, but also, as an actor, I think she jumps into the role. She participates in the role. Like, I can guarantee you, Alan Cumming would be amazing as a player on this show.
For sure.
He would do fantastic. He would the actor, you have to dive into like, what character am I going to give?
I got it.
But I was just saying, Ember's obsessed, so I love having my buddy. But the fashion, her and I are just chit-chatting about the fashion because everyone brought it. everyone, their stylist
really good.
brought it. Clearly, a lot of these players got stylists for this because it's like
like 100% the whole show styled.
I'm just like obsessed with the fact that like all of a sudden Tamara is in a different beret every single episode. CT comes in with like a newsy cap and a dark zipped up, brown leather jacket with a scarf, and he's like, we're at the bar now, and you're like, oh my god, everyone. Don't even get me started on my Queen Peppermint with the fits. We'll get into Peppermint.
It's really like Saltburn meets Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, it's everything.
You know what I mean?
To me.
Like they pull up in like matching vintage Land Rovers, and it looks
Unreal.
like a gangster movie, and like everyone's coming, like even the funeral scene, everyone's got like some of the women have that like the face coverings, and the men are in these dark tuxedos and like slick back hair. Like it's very encompassing.
It's a feast for my eyeballs.
It's a feast for the eyes.
It's a feast for my eyeballs. But anywho, okay, we have to take a quick pause, and then I am just so excited to dive into this. I feel so passionate because I just enjoyed every element of watching
Super
this.
fresh too. Like that's a fresh
so
thing.
fresh, so aesthetically pleasing. It felt almost like an escape room. I know it's not Dungeons and Dragons, but it had that physical energy.
It's very Dungeons and Dragons, like non-dragony.
Yes.
But like it is Dungeons and Dragons if you just made it a different plot instead of the classic fantasy.
Like, can you imagine playing D&D at that manor? Like,
right.
I'm just so grateful. The family knew that I would love this, and so many people messaged me over the past like year or like however many months it's been. Not a year. I don't know. The past few months, they're like, please watch Traitors 2. And I resisted, and I'll tell everybody why in a few moments. Okay. But I'm so, so grateful that I have started this.
Can't wait to get into this.
Okay, but first, family. Question, did you recently get kicked off Traitors? And are you looking to get that traitor scroll that described your elimination framed? Or are you merely a new fan of the Traitors looking to get a photo of Alan Cumming framed for your home? Because I would like to do that. Well, let me tell you, speaking of frames, about Framebridge. We are obsessed with Framebridge. We've been using them for years, and we actually just used them again recently for art in our newly renoed room. They're the best.
Yes.
They are the best, people.
Framebridge makes it easy to get anything framed at an affordable price. All you have to do is upload a digital photo for them to print or mail your item you want framed using their free, secure, prepaid packaging, or visit one of the 20 plus retail stores. Framebridge then custom frames your piece in their studio using the highest quality materials and ships it right to your door for free. And these frames are amazing. They have a curated selection of frame styles with design experts on hand who make it fun to choose the perfect frame.
Also, let's talk about the affordability. I remember the first time I tried to get something custom framed before I discovered Framebridge, and I was shocked at how pricey it was. And then I thought, well, I guess I won't be custom framing because it's just too expensive. But then Framebridge came along, and it's affordable and customizable, and it's so easy because they do it all for you. So like I mentioned, we just used Framebridge again recently to get some art in our newly renovated room in our home. And here's the deal. I simply just uploaded a few images onto Framebridge's website that I wanted blown up and framed, and boom. After choosing my custom framing online, they're shipped to my home. It's perfect. And now, looking gorgeous in that room, I'm also shipping, for free by the way, some of Ember's musical theater programs to get framed, because you can get so much custom framed through Framebridge. I'm talking hotel key cards, menus, tickets, diplomas, the musical theater programs, like I mentioned. It's amazing. And by the way, this also makes for such a great gift. This is such a great gift idea. Mother's Day is coming up. Just a reminder. Just a reminder. See why Framebridge has been trusted to frame over 2 million pieces. Visit framebridge.com or a local Framebridge store to get started and custom frame just about anything. That's framebridge.com. Okay, so first of all, sorry if I'm stumbling. I feel like I'm stumbling over my words right now, and my ideas are all over the place because I am so.
I'm not good looking. I get it. Listen, it's been happening to me a lot lately, and it's the cross I have to bear, and I'm sorry that you are kind of the recipient of that. So anyway, I totally get it. Take your time. Take your time. Relax into it.
That's exactly what it was. No, I'm just like so excited about this show, and I feel like I have so many thoughts that are pulsating.
You're ahead of your words.
Yes, my brain is ahead of like that's all that's happening. Anywho,
we forgive you, babe.
Thank you.
And the day that it happens to me, which it does all the time, I hope you forgive me too.
I'm just buzzing.
Let's do this thing.
Okay, before we actually officially dive in,
Okay.
I did have to take a quick pause and discuss something that I realized we haven't talked about on the podcast. We found out about it a few days ago, and I feel like I'm hearing everybody talk about it, but I feel like we would be remiss if we did not mention that our golden bachelor couple, Gerry and Theresa, have officially announced their divorce.
Yeah, I forgot about this for a second.
And called it quits.
Yeah.
But went on a TV show. I think I don't know if it was a Good Morning America or what it was, but went on a TV
Which
show.
was kind of a weird move, I guess, a little bit.
That was a little surprising to me.
It gave, king and queen of something a little bit, like an official statement. You know what I mean?
President.
As opposed to everyone else who breaks up in The Bachelor just posts like, hey guys, we're taking some time apart. We've decided to mutually separate. We wish you the best. Love. Thanks for respecting our privacy. It's generally that.
Yes.
They just go right on like 60 minutes and you're like, do you want to say it or do I? Let's do it together. We are no longer together. Yes, and it's fully mutual, and that's why we're here. It's like, what, did they call someone and be like, get down here with a camera crew?
I was surprised the way in which they announced it, and I'm so curious what production thought, because my immediate thought when I saw that they had announced this is I was like, oh, I would imagine that production was like not wanting them to announce this until the Golden Bachelorette aired.
I completely
to like
agree.
be like, hey, this process works, everybody. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Here's the preview for Golden Bachelorette, and do that whole thing, and then have them like quietly announce that they were getting a divorce.
Well, why did they have to announce it even? Like, I'm a little bit like, I feel like you could have announced it later. I felt like generally in my mind, maybe it's like, hey, we're getting older. We need to know that like all the single people know we're single. So like, there's an option. I was
gonna say maybe they were a little bit like, hey, we're done.
There's
and
a ticking clock.
There's a ticking clock, and we're ready. We want to meet the love of our life, and so I just need everybody to know that like I'm on the market.
They're
again.
both like, now that we're kind of semi-famous, like our options are bigger. So like, let's make sure that like we get our options.
Be real with
and
you.
like start DMing me.
If I was in
their
their position, I would probably do the same thing. I'd be like, just FYI, like you know, I'm in my 70s.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna like wait this one out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hold on for a minute.
Now, one thing that I was just kind of wondering though is I was, thinking about it, and I was going, something that's kind of interesting to me is like they got married, right?
Yeah,
it wasn't like usually
it's just like the engagement.
It's the engagement, then there's a breakup, right? But they got serious enough to get married.
Yeah.
So to get divorced 3 months later, it's like, what in the engagement was enough to get married that couldn't last 3 months? Like it's interesting to me, the quickness.
Yeah.
Like if we said 7, 8 months, 9 months, a year, I'd be like, everyone breaks up on the show. It feels like so whatever. Sure. But 3 months is quick. It could have just been like, yo, not a vibe. I don't know. It's just kind of like, whoa, like definitely a shock to 3 months later be like, wait, what?
Listen, this is my thing, and I feel like I'm seeing online a lot of people who are throwing around conspiracy theories about it. A lot of people who are like very upset, where they're like, hey, we devoted our time and energy into watching them, and like this feels like, was this a sham? This is my opinion, okay? And I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just my opinion.
Sure.
My opinion is that probably, you really don't know each other that well. We got two people in their 70s who are like, let's just go for it. Mm-hmm. And then probably there were things where you're like, this may not be the right fit or work. And I'm sure the articles that came out about Gerry were hard to work through as a couple. Like, I don't know what that looks like behind the scenes, like trying to process through that. Who knows? But then I'm sure there was stuff going on behind the scenes where there were questions, but it seems as though probably there were powers that be that were very heavily encouraging the moving forward of the golden wedding.
I see what you're saying. That makes sense to me.
I think that production is a powerful tool. We see it every single season. We always talk about it, and trust and believe, I'm sure it didn't stop once those cameras stopped rolling for them, because then we're talking about the golden wedding. So maybe even if there were questions, there's probably like a pushing forward of like this though, but like you guys will work it out and it's good,
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's my guess in this, because I don't know. I feel like everyone's I'm not saying that people are wrong to be frustrated about the whole thing. And like I said, who knows, maybe I'm wrong and there's a whole conspiracy theory behind it, but I still feel for them. It's like, it's still a divorce and they still tried to make it work and it's sad. And I feel like I send them my blessings and I hope that they're able to, you know, move forward and find love. And this was a good experience for them in some form.
Yeah. Like how many months was the engagement for the wedding? Roughly 3, 4?
A few, yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's see 3, 4, which means they were together for 6, 7 months.
Yeah.
Okay. So if they would have just gotten engaged,
I don't
and
think
then 7 months later they break up, people would have been like, oh yeah, I mean, not crazy.
I think that's
like
pretty
things
standard
happen.
for a lot of the show. Is that like
the wedding? I guarantee you, there was like, they're going to get paid for it. It's going to be a whole thing. They're going to get brand deals. Who knows what the whole thing is.
But then also you know, the franchise is like, this is great for us.
And they probably looked at each other and went like, what's the difference between marriage and anyway at this age? Like marriage versus not marriage. We just sign a document. Okay, let's just do it and like make some money and make it a fun thing. And we're planning on staying together, but we're not taking it as serious as like a 23 or 4-year-old that's getting married.
Right.
It's like, whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter at this point. So let's do it, you know? We're going to stay together hopefully, but they weren't probably putting so much pressure on marriage.
That's kind of my thought. And I know people might get mad because it's like, give us the hot take of like what happened behind the scenes and were they like the Bonnie and Clyde trying to like, you know, and I'm like, maybe, but I don't think so. I think that it probably was what always happens with this show where you actually spend more time together and you realize like, yeah, I got like we cared about each other. We're caught up in the fantasy. Everything is good. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, I actually don't want to quit my job. I actually don't want to leave my family
like the
and where my
reality.
grandkids are and where my children are.
That's
and
what
then
I
we're
was
not
thinking
willing to compromise.
From day one, it was always the kids and location to me where I was like,
specifically,
let's be real here. You're just going to, one of you just has to leave your children. And are you guys going to do that?
Specifically with the Golden Bachelor, it has to be
Everyone
done.
else is super flexible.
It has to be done like Love is Blind. It needs to be in the same
area.
same state.
Yes, I completely
You know what
agree.
I mean? Like that's
Completely
too much
agree.
asking someone in their 70s to be like, I know that you're fully rooted and have your home here and your retirement's here. Your children are here. No, it's too much.
Uproot everything, leave your grandkids behind and move together.
It's too much.
It is too much.
It's too much. So those are my thoughts. And the people that are
what if he
very
was
like
just really messy? Like if he's just like everything about him I love, but this house is disgusting.
It might
and
be.
He just takes his pants out, throws them on the ground, and eats, and then just leaves plates out, and like he won't change.
He's like, don't you love this darling pile of my clothes?
I love putting on underwear for the 4th day in a row. Don't you love my natural musk?
Ew.
What's the big deal?
Who knows? Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's like, it could be simply that.
I love the idea, though, that something super simple, but like a big ick to her.
Yeah.
It's just like the way he eats.
She's just like, his feet. I saw his feet.
Yes.
And I just couldn't get over,
right.
You know, the bunions. Shout out to Bunions. I have them. Shout out to Bunions. Bunions.
The Bunion Club.
Shout out in the comments. Get in those YouTube comments
Yo,
if you're part of the Bunion Club, okay?
If you're part of the BC, please drop it in the comments.
Because maybe Gerry Bear was just part of the Bunion Club.
Maybe part of the Bunion
Club. And Theresa
Club.
was just like, I can't do a bunion.
I can't do it. I can't be a part of that club. Dude, Bunion Club. Let's go.
Part of the BC.
Sign up for a newsletter.
Anywho.
Drop a pic of your craziest bunion in our comments, please.
I have what's called the bunionette, which is
That
where
sounds so cute.
It's where it's on the other side and it's like a smaller, it's not on like the main bunion side, it's on the other side of the
it's
foot.
on the pinky toe side.
Yeah. It's called a bunionette. Looked it up. Yeah. Fun
so
for me. Yay, turning 35, getting older.
Anyway,
but that's the deal. And I, sending our love to them. I feel like a lot of people are really, really like coming for them hard.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, if we don't know all the details, I'm not one to jump and judge before, because a divorce, regardless of how long it was, especially in the public eye, it's got to be hard. And I'll say this, listen, I don't regret the golden wedding. I liked watching the golden wedding, and it gave me a moment of hope and love on this dark planet. It gave me about an hour and a half of feeling ushy gushy, and the whole Golden Bachelor season, I felt the love and I loved it. And sure, is it super depressing now because it didn't work out? But in those moments, I felt overjoyed. And I'm down.
I don't see how it's any different from every other couple that breaks up.
And unless they regret it, unless they're like, we regret the golden wedding, I don't regret the Golden Wedding because I liked watching it. I liked Kathy on the red carpet. I loved getting the Bachelor crew together, like tons of people. It was a great moment. And sure, is 3 months later very jarring? Yes, but it was a fabulous moment in time.
See, it's like for me, I didn't have, to be honest with you, that much of an emotional attachment to them getting together specifically.
Yes, I understand.
Like them two together didn't move the needle for me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like a couple of them, I felt like that was the move.
It was
Susan, but like
the Leslie was so heavy.
Leslie, right? But like, to be honest with you, those two, the second they got together, I was like, okay, like. So then breaking up means like it was like okay.
I was happy for them, but it wasn't
right,
like
but I didn't feel I didn't have an like that kind of lost it for me a little bit.
You know what really brought me all the warm ushy gushy was the relationship with the women.
Oh, just their relationship together.
That is the warm butterflies. And honestly, then the way that being on this show and like having, they said how Gerry made them feel, like felt revitalized. And now they're out here like, at award shows. That I'm
now
feeling
they have like
that.
careers.
It's amazing. And so I'm seeing people saying like, what's the point in watching the Golden Bachelorette now that we saw this flop? And I'm like, I am not of that camp. I'm like, are you for real? Like,
it's the same.
So it's so many people don't work out in this franchise.
It's the same reason you watch any dating show.
And the Golden Bachelorette, I mean, let's look at, in general, the Bachelorette typically is more successful than the Bachelor in general. So like maybe think of it that way. Maybe the Golden Bachelorette is going to be, create a long-term partnership.
No questions asked. The best personalities that come out of the show in a very long time.
Agreed.
Maybe ever. Like they were like we had full-blown characters.
I know.
We had like 4 to 5 women who are like standout stars.
I know.
Who's hosting shows, doing all sorts of extra stuff, who were just in the cast before that weren't a part of any other season. It's like nobody.
It's very rare.
Right? Usually it's like they're a bachelor, bachelorette, or like a major like they were just 5 random women on the show, some more successful than others on the show, and literally have careers now because they're so awesome. So like I think in general, the older people are going to have better personalities and more like standout, interesting dynamics.
I agree. But the people are, it is what it is. But and again, I get it when people feel frustrated when they really set their eyes on the love that was between them. But
I get it.
I just.
Sorry if you're hurt, people.
Yeah. Shout out if you're hurt. Shout out to Theresa.
Comment down below if you're hurt and if you got bunions. And if you have both, you get double points. the HBC, the Hurt Bunion Club.
I wonder if there's a correlation.
Can we get into Traitors?
We need to talk about Traitors.
Let's go.
Yes. And also we need to talk about the fly that's in this room. Sorry if you see my eyes darting around. There is a fly that is zipping around here and it's really bothering me.
Jess's number one thing is flies. Like
house flies, I can't handle it.
Know.
And it's also like very much not traitor energy. It's not giving me traitor energy. It'd be flying around. It's
not elegant to have flies around.
No, it's not elegant. And what would be elegant is if it was a crow flying around. And I don't know if you noticed how many crows were in the Traitors.
Big crow production.
So many crows on that cast. Yeah. Massive crow cast.
On the cast?
Well, I mean, they're part of the show.
Are you kind of doing a whole like the bird conspiracy thing right now? Are you saying that all birds are like,
no,
controlled
I'm just
by the
saying
government?
There's a moment that like, there's the scarecrow scene and there's like 50 crows just hanging around those scarecrows and they have to be like digitally imposed. So I'm just saying they really value the crow content on this show, which I feel like correlates with the success of this show is heavy crow content equals success.
It is actually a great question to wonder, are those trained crows brought in or do they just set those up and there's a lot of crows in the field that'll go on them?
With any other production, I would say 100% it's a digital crow, a CGI crow. But because of the money that they clearly put in this production, they might have brought in trained crows.
Whoa.
Some just things to ponder.
Oh, I just thought of something very interesting that I'm not going to say anything to anybody, but like a good idea. Interesting.
I just want you also to know. That's so ominous and annoying.
A very interesting idea.
So ominous and annoying. I just want you to know, too, that this was the show. Yeah. This is the most embarrassing thing I think I've ever admitted on this podcast. Okay. This is the show that made me realize why it's called a scarecrow. Scarecrow.
Oh, boy.
I never realized it before.
Okay, guys. That was very me, by the way.
That
sounds like me. I
feel
usually
like
say
I
that
put
kind of
that
stuff.
vulnerability out there, and I was really hoping you were going to be like, "Oh shit, no way!"
Yeah.
I'm realizing that now
Right.
too, and now I feel extra vulnerable that I just said that.
Now, the one thing I will, okay.
It hit me like a ton of bricks while Ember and I were watching the scene with
Yeah.
the scarecrows, and I like realized it in the Traitors
Actual
episode,
crows.
and I was like, scarecrows.
Right.
It just blew my mind.
Right. I mean, I get that. I understand that. It's like nutcracker. You're just like thinking of a thing. You're not thinking of it's actually meant to crack
It's a
nuts.
nutcracker.
Right,
Sure.
right.
That one I
get
figured out, but
Right.
yeah, but
Cracked
that's
the
a great example. Okay, let's get into Traitors. But first, we got to take another quick pause. Family, this message is sponsored by Greenlight. As your kids get older, some things about parenting get easier, like being able to reason and explain more things to them. For example, saying something like, "Hey, I know there's an awful lot of what looks like free gum underneath that table, but it's not a candy store. That gum has already been chewed." Do you all know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
We've had this conversation with our child before. But other things don't get easier, like having that conversation about money. The fact is, kids won't really know how to manage their money until they're actually in charge of it. That's where Greenlight can help.
Yeah, Greenlight is a debit card and money app made for families. Parents can send money to their kids and keep an eye on kids' spending and saving, while kids and teens build money confidence and lifelong financial literacy skills. With the Greenlight app, kids learn to save, invest, and spend wisely thanks to games that teach money skills in a fun, accessible way. It's really incredible.
The Greenlight app also includes a chores feature where you can set up one-time or reoccurring chores customized to your family's needs and reward kids with allowance for a job well done. This would have motivated me, to do those chores. I swear having Greenlight growing up would have been so beneficial for me. To be completely honest, I still struggle with financial literacy and pieces of it just really intimidate me. So I'm so glad that my kiddo has Greenlight to help her and build that confidence along the way. Millions of parents and kids are learning about money on Greenlight. It's the easy, convenient way for parents to raise financially smart kids and families to navigate life together. Sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/momdad. That's greenlight.com/momdad to try Greenlight for free. Greenlight.com/momdad. Okay, let's get into officially these first 4 episodes. 35, 40 minutes into this
Apologies.
episode.
It wouldn't be us.
We had to talk about the divorce. We had to talk about the divorce. All right. The Traitors. Everyone. This whole thing starts out when we see this set, and I'm going to guess the approximate budget is $1 billion because we have pyrotechnics, we have high-end cars, we have castles, we have fashion, we have crows. It is absolutely gorgeous.
To me, what's more impressive than like the set or any of that stuff is the personnel and acting.
Fabulous.
So it's like we got guys out front drumming and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like,
yeah, the
me,
literal
it's like,
war drums that start.
There's a lot of shows that have cool like set pieces and
Yes.
they have like a big, wooden table that's amazing and all that stuff's cool. But like what's far more impressive is like the production. Like there's like choreographers that are going to have to be like, okay, you guys play the drum and come out. And there's like a music director having to be like, here's what you're playing. And then there's like, you know what I'm saying?
The choir
Like,
later who
there's, like,
sang the song.
Like they had to write the song. You know what I mean? And like they're walking through and each level they get to is a different set, like not even a set piece, but the people doing things like that is far more impressive and like all encompassing.
Yeah. And on The Bachelor, we get another picnic.
They're like in bunk beds and they're just like another helicopter ride. Like I honestly think they have like an Excel doc.
Oh, sure.
And it's just like, every year we'll just have the same Excel doc and they swap out a couple things here and there, but it's
AI that just implants
it's just like picnic. Okay, cool. It's raining. It's a picnic. Like it's literally just, this is like, what are we going to cut?
It's so fresh. And I would love to see a nice crossover between like traitor energy with The Bachelor, or
Yeah.
even like Love is Blind. Like I was thinking about hearing those drums pounding when a couple meets face to face for the
Yeah.
first time on Love is Blind. Like you tell me that wouldn't make it more exciting, you know, just maybe some
100%.
twists. But we see Alan, and of course he's so fabulous, and he explains the premise of this show, which is essentially there are the faithful and there are the traitors.
Yes.
He will be picking out who is the traitors. They have to keep this secret and safe. There is money at the end of this. They will be having different missions every single day, and the missions will help get money in the pot if they succeed. And bottom line, when we get to the end, if there is a traitor left, the traitor will take all the money.
Yeah.
Versus it gets split up between
Yeah.
everybody else, I believe, at the very end, if there are no traitors. So the whole goal is to get one of the traitors, or to get all of the traitors out, and every night the traitors murder someone. I also like too that on this show they just go with the fantasy. They don't call it something else. They're just
they don't
literally
go
like
eliminate.
yeah, they're just like, are you ready to murder someone?
Are you ready to absolutely throw a flaming sword through their skull?
They literally take it to the level that, like, when you're in the graveyard scene, they have like the grave set up of the
getting
people who
buried
have died. They're
alive.
getting buried alive.
Get in the coffin immediately.
By the way, later when Ek and Sue gets put in the
Yeah,
coffin
yeah.
and then they're shoveling dirt on it, Ember was with me and she's like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
oh my god!" I'm like, "No, Ember,
they
okay,
moved
she
her off
definitely
to the
got
left,
out
and
of the
that was
coffin.
just a thing.
They're not burying her alive."
I love the idea of like if they buried her alive, but like without the coffin, and she's like choking on dirt, and they're like, we got to make it look real.
But the way that this is set up, I would be so caught up that I'd think maybe they will. Maybe they will do
Sure.
something absolutely
Also,
treacherous.
what's worse than getting buried alive?
Don't even want to talk about it.
I mean, that is
Truly
like when I watch
terrifying.
when that happens in movies and stuff, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my god.
Number one terrifier.
And like the dirt's coming
Number one
through the wood,
terrifier.
and they're like that is unbelievable.
Just
Although
nightmarish.
realistically, probably not that bad. You just slowly kind of fall asleep.
Evan, I don't even want to think about this. What a horrible way
Just
to start
saying.
off our recap.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, incredible production. Let's get into the worst ways and the best ways to die.
But like, I love that they keep up with the fantasy
definitely.
when they initiate
Like
them
they didn't
in.
have to bury her alive. You know
no,
what I mean?
and
could
they
just
didn't
been
have
like,
to have
and
them
she's-
like in the grave and like the
Or they
photos.
shut when he's like, yeah, it's you, and then he like shut the thing on her face.
Terrifying.
And like, she like, you know what I mean?
Terrifying,
Yeah, it was
truly,
really good.
truly. Like they give it to us. They serve the entire time.
It's really well thought out.
so well thought
Really
out.
well thought out.
But so that's basically the premise
Yeah.
of the show. And then we're introduced to the cast, which I'm going to just quickly go through the cast that we have. Because here's fact of the matter. I really didn't know a lot of the people on this cast.
Right.
I don't know if you see this family, but Evan has his laptop open so that he can be looking at the cast photos so he can remember the names, because he would be a terrible traitor. He would forget
with names ever.
he would forget all the names.
Literally, I like.
If
I
you
have
were
to
a
look at
traitor,
this.
you'd go to the turret and you'd be like,
I want to kill Alan Cumming. And he's like, I'm not a part of this. And it's the only name I remember.
You're the only name that I recall.
You don't escape my grasp. And he's like, that's my job. I'm doing the thing, you know?
But I didn't know a lot of these people, so I want to go over this
Yeah.
quickly. Also, that's just a shout out to in case we're like, oh my god, we love this person or this person we don't like. And
We don't know.
I don't know what their past is on the shows. I know nothing about most of these people, so sorry in advance. All I know is how I like them on this show.
Yes.
First, we have Johnny Bananas and CT from the challenge,
Yep.
who I know them vaguely, and I just know that they're iconic on the
Right.
challenge.
I remember seeing videos of them when they were like 22.
Yeah,
like
I remember
20
watching
years
like
ago.
maybe 1 or 2 seasons of the challenge when I was 15
Right,
or
right,
something,
right,
and
right.
you know, thinking both of them were cute. I'm not gonna lie to you.
So,
But like Johnny Bananas has won the challenge 7 times, I think the most of anyone.
Yeah.
So he's like elite on the
Right.
gaming end of things. CT's won 5 times. And then there was Trishelle that's from the challenge. I didn't recognize her, but that's what she's from. She has what seems to be somewhat of a contentious relationship going into this
Yeah.
with CT. There's also Dan and Janelle from Big Brother.
yeah.
And apparently both massive players on Big Brother. Dan, he said, almost won twice. Interesting.
Doesn't
There
count.
is Peppermint from Drag Race, who I do know,
Yes.
family. And not only do I know, but I am absolutely obsessed with Peppermint. I was obsessed with Peppermint on the show, and I am a huge fan off of the show. Every interview she does, every podcast, like everything.
Yeah.
This is the reason that I almost didn't watch Traitor Season 2. Because when I saw that Peppermint was casted for Traitor Season 2, I'm like, oh, I'm watching Traitor Season 2. I'm so excited. I'm obsessed with her. And then I right away saw her post something that she got kicked off right away.
It's like episode 2, you're like, what?
And I was like, fuck that, I'm not watching.
Right.
How dare they? And I'm going to continue to say this. I loved the show, but I am shouting from the rooftops, and we'll get into it. She needs to be on Traitor Season 3. They need to bring they need to bring Peppermint back.
And Bananas.
They need to bring Bananas and Peppermint back.
It's like, dude, you guys got rid of probably very much the two most personalitied people on the show.
Yes, the dynamic players.
Yes.
And they got rid of them.
That's a smart way of saying it. Personalitied people. is another way to say that is dynamic players.
giving us amazing interviews.
Yep.
ITMs, also Peppermint giving us incredible fashion from the get.
Like, I might, like, you're not going to be murdered by me, but you'll be murdered by this look. And like all
and she
those
starts
just
strutting.
Exactly.
When they kicked her off and she did the hair flip before she said she was faithful. I mean, Peppermint is iconic. And then on top of all of this too, the fact that she came in and she was like, I want to be an advocate for the transgender community.
Right.
Like, she is such an incredible person. And I was so devastated.
Pissed,
I was so angry, and so was Ember, because Ember loves Peppermint too. I mean, like, we're drag con goers, and Ember was distraught. So that's why I almost didn't watch the season.
Right.
So there's that. We also then have Bergie from Love Island USA. Bergie is one of my most favorite people that's ever walked this planet. Didn't know who he was before, but he was absolutely hilarious. He was beat red immediately and was like, I don't think I should be playing this game.
I don't think I'm allowed.
But I think that Bergie, I don't know. I think he might.
Well, I want to talk about that.
Okay.
I want to talk about that.
Then we have Ekin-Su, who I do know from Love Island UK. Love her. Sandra from Survivor, who she won twice. Sandra I didn't know Sandra. I'm not a Survivor watcher. I watched like maybe the first 2 seasons or 3 seasons of Survivor 100 years ago. Loved it. I feel like I got to get back into it. But Sandra is badass energy. Sandra is like, there were so many moments where throughout these 4 episodes that Sandra would just be like sitting on one of the couches eating, and someone would come in and she'd be like, don't worry about them. They're irrelevant.
Yeah.
She was like Godfather energy.
Big time
Godfather energy. Like, Sandra has this whole game in the palm of her hand. I just know it.
Definitely not easily rattled.
No. Another Survivor player we have is Parvati, who almost won twice. And there seems to be some contention between Sandra and Parvati from their Survivor past, because they say that they debate on who is the queen of Survivor.
Right.
Parvati also fabulous player.
It's like it's
they call her the Black Widow.
I like how you can just play the game differently and still be successful. Because like, you're right, Sandra kind of leans back, and then she's kind of got this like mafioso thing going on.
Yeah.
Parvati kind of plays like, who, me?
Yeah.
And
is
kind
more
of
quiet too.
A little more quiet, but also kind of like, oh, I don't know, I'm just happy to kind of just like a little more like fun, like a little more bubbly, just kind of like cool. But then all of a sudden, like, realize everything she's doing is calculated. So it's interesting how they're both like really good at it, but like they're coming at it from completely different angles.
Parvati has the moves though where she pulls back and was really quiet, because I remember then like Phaedra at the very end of episode 4 was like, nobody likes you. And there were a few moments where I heard people talking about that she's not, I think, very liked in the house.
Yeah.
So clearly she turns it on, because we see her being all smoochy with Ekin-Su and being sweet and charming. But then I think she goes in and out of pulling back.
Yeah.
Being called the Black Widow of like a gamer game, I would be like my elite.
Yeah.
I would be obsessed.
It's really good.
And then we have Deontay, who is a famous boxer.
I'm super familiar with Deontay Wilder. I've watched all like most of his fights and everything, or his big fights, and this was a random one to me.
Yes,
because I'm kind of like, you're a gajillionaire, one of the most famous boxers of all time. It's kind of like, what is this doing
But do you know why?
Bored,
no, do you know why? I'm going to tell you why. And it was when I resonated with this man so hard.
Yeah.
I was like, soulmate. They were driving up and he goes, oh my God, we're about to be in a castle in Scotland.
Yeah, he really wants
and he
to
goes,
be
I sure hope it's haunted. It's my dream.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's my dream too. Like he wanted to be part of the game.
Yeah.
And you know, he probably loves the paranormal. He was obsessed with the idea of it being haunted.
Yeah, and then it was very, I want to talk about him at some point too, because it was a very strange experience. His experience was very strange to me.
I think he's the perfect example of, I saw it on Special Forces as well. On Special Forces, there have been obviously very successful athletes who have done well on Special Forces, but the people who crush are always the reality TV.
There's a mental fortitude there that's just no
or
one
reality
else has.
TV players, because it is like an ice in the veins to a certain extent where it's like you realize, like Deontay has probably never had to deal with production like this before, where you're kept up till all hours, and the psychological mind games are different in boxing. So, you know, obviously he's great at that, but like this is a different ball game. And you see it on Special Forces where these reality TV stars are, they have a fortitude that's different within this world.
Sure. And if you're a boxer, everything in your life is catered to your comfort, because it's all about keeping you comfortable and healthy. And so like hours and sleeping and all that thing. So yeah, if you're a reality TV star, you're used to being thrown around, manipulated, tired, overextended, and so it'll probably wears on you. That makes sense. Okay.
He made my heart hurt.
Yeah, he was so much more sensitive than I was expecting.
He was like literally an angel, and I was obsessed with him, and I wanted to give him all the hugs.
Yeah.
And like he
was not meant for this.
I loved him so much.
He got fucked up.
He really did. Then we have some housewives, baby. We have Phaedra, who was on Real Housewives of Atlanta, now on Married to Medicine. And then Sheree from Real Housewives of Atlanta. Now, I really only watch Real Housewives of Potomac and Beverly Hills now. Mm-hmm. So I'm not super familiar with them, but of course they're like oh so famous. So I do have a touch of knowledge. Then we have Tamra from the Housewives of Orange County, who I do know because I did used to watch the
Tamra.
OG. I did watch the OG OC episodes.
Yeah, Tamra. I remember Tamra very well.
Which I'd like to put this into the universe.
Oh, Vicky.
We need Vicky season 3. Can you all
She'd
imagine
just be screaming the whole time.
Vicky screaming, and literally any one of the missions, she'd be a nightmare. Noted. Don't know if you noted this. I said in true classic reality TV housewife form, first mission, Alan goes before they start. He's like, Tamra won't be joining us because she doesn't feel well. I'm like,
classic.
She didn't want to get her hair watered.
Vibes.
She was like, no, I just got a full blowout. I don't want to get in the water.
I just like
and
how I like how you can just be
sick.
like, I'm not going to do it. Like how that's even an option. It's crazy.
Then we have Larsa, who is a Real housewife of Miami, famously the ex of Scottie Pippen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch Miami, so I don't know her, but I know the lore of Larsa. And they have broken up now since, but at the time, she was in a relationship with Marcus, who's also on the cast, who is Michael Jordan's son.
Which is so wild.
So wild. These two, I know they're broken up now, kind of a dynamic duo on this show if they wouldn't have gotten cut early. Because they could have been. They had their finger to the pulse, I think, of what was going on more than anybody. Then we have John, who's a former member of Parliament.
Like, was he just bored? Like, that's what a wild...
But he's not part of it anymore.
But have you seen UK Parliament? So where they all scream at each other. So it makes sense.
Okay, yes, sure.
They're like, they're yelling. It's like very theatrical and like performative. So
John's an interesting one for me because in my humble opinion, now I don't know, sorry everybody, I don't know what political leanings this man has. I know nothing of John, okay? But what I do know is he's a politician. And I feel like he got written off really quickly on this show by the players as being like, well, he's kind of the old man who says blustering, loud, ridiculous things. And they're like, ooh, he's kind of funny. I think he's going to be...
Except Tamra. Tamra was always like, you're a politician. I can't It was funny. Her logic was so bad. She'd be like, you're a politician, so you must be a traitor. It's like, well, no. Alan just like touched whoever. Like, just because he's a politician doesn't mean he's the bad guy. It just means like watch out for him.
But he'll be able to play this part.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking that John is going to be like, so far he's kind of been in the background. I have a feeling that he's going to come out swinging at some point. If he doesn't get eliminated, I think everyone kind of is like, oh, it's just John. But I'm like, y'all, he was a former member of parliament.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, let's just not forget, okay? Government business.
Yeah.
Then we have Max from Dancing with the Stars.
Super ugly guy.
Even not good looking at all,
just
right?
like impossibly good looking dude.
Also, speaking of impossibly good looking, Kevin from Bling Empire.
Yep.
That man is gorgeous. Okay. This man is gorgeous. I don't know Max well. I don't know Kevin. MJ, Shaws of Sunset. I know the show, but I'm not super familiar. I'm not super familiar with the show. But MJ is from Shaws of Sunset. And then finally, of course, we have Pilot Pete, who is our former Bachelor, who I was so excited to see on this. And I have to say, so far,
doing well.
Very impressed with our boy Peter.
Doing well. Not even a sniff.
And also throwing out some game theory.
Interesting ideas.
He's mixing around ideas, and also like at the breakfast table, there was even that moment where Dan was like, "Oh shit, Peter's like following along," and then Peter had that idea with him and Kevin with the voting piece, where he's like, "Let's start some fake contention." Of course, a Bachelor player will do well. Of course,
you have to wade through the fires of that world, and you're built for this.
Yep. So that is officially the cast.
Yes.
All right. Let's take one last quick pause, and then we're going to dive into the ins and outs. Okay. Family, when was the last time you made a no-brainer decision? For me, it was this morning doing my Alan Cumming impersonation to Evan. Yes. And it was also last night when I ordered loaded nachos for dinner. Two very no-brainer decisions.
No-brainers.
Obviously, they're both no-brainer decisions. But here's the thing. When you're making decisions for your company or your household, you're always looking for the no-brainers, right? And if you have a lot of mailing and shipping to do, Stamps.com is the obvious choice for a reason. It streamlines your process and makes your business and life more efficient, freeing you up to focus on the bigger decisions. We've been using Stamps.com for our business and personal use for like about a decade, I think, at this point. Yeah. And they're just simply the best. That's why we keep using them, because they're just the best.
Yeah. And truly, Stamps.com is a no-brainer for you if you are in the business, because they mail checks, invoices, legal documents, books, everything you need to keep your business running. Stamps seamlessly connects with every major marketplace and shopping cart if you sell online. And you can access the USPS and UPS mailing services you need to run your business right from your computer or phone anytime, day or night. No lines, no traffic, no waiting. And on top of all that, get rates you can't find anywhere else, like up to 89% off USPS or UPS.
Those rates make a huge financial difference because that adds up. And now the Stamps.com mobile app is like having a post office in your pocket wherever you are, because you can take care of mailing and shipping anywhere, even on the go. All you need is a computer and printer. They even send you a free scale and easily schedule package pickups through your Stamps.com dashboard, which I'm obsessed with. Make the same no-brainer decision as over 1 million other businesses with Stamps.com. Sign up with promo code MOMDAD for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, and enter code MOMDAD. Okay, so after they enter the gorgeous castle, the gorgeous manor, to decide who will be faithful and who will be traitors, who will be murdering the faithful, Alan interviews for who he believes he would choose as the traitors. Yeah. Now, what's interesting is that they don't know how many people are going to be traitors.
That is an interesting thing, because it could be 6, it could be 1, right?
Right.
Like, realistically. Do you know how many were last season? I don't.
I don't.
Interesting.
Now I'm going to definitely be watching season 1, trust.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure, what a mind fuck it would be if they did a season where everyone was a traitor except like one person. Well, then they wouldn't kill anybody.
So let's just cut that.
But like if they could kill off other traitors and like do deals or something.
Maybe they'll evolve into that.
I don't know how that would work, but I do like it.
These are just ideas. They come from the heavens.
So when he sits down, right away, there are a few people that are like, make me a traitor.
Yeah.
Would you want to be a traitor or would you want to be a faithful?
It was interesting thinking about this, because I was thinking, what am I be better at? And obviously I'd want to be a traitor for the fact that like I'm going to be in control for a couple episodes. So
Yeah.
at least like I know that like I'll be there. But I do feel like it would be really fun to try to get people off you. You know what I'm saying? To be like cruising around and be like, okay, I'm not a traitor, but like I don't want anyone thinking I'm a traitor. So
Right.
there's kind of this like laying low, but not too. It's tough. It's tough. I want to be faithful. I want to try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like initially I right away was like, oh, I would love to be a traitor, like because the game of
It
it
feels
all.
just way more stressful.
But that's my thing. I'm like, let me make something very clear to you all. I would get kicked off day one because I'd be so excited by all of this.
Yeah.
My energy, I mean, look at me. I'm like pulsating.
Yeah.
You put me on that set, day one, I'm like losing
Nervous
my
energy.
shit. My nervous energy. I'd be sweating bullets. They'd be like, you're a traitor, you're out.
Yeah.
Like I would do, and I'd overthink everything. So I'd get kicked out day one. So being a traitor, it's just too much pressure, I think, for me. Yeah. I think I'd rather be a faithful. Because I think you could, like you said, you could really play the game as a faithful too. And you could be a sneaky faithful.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Like you could be a faithful who's like, oh, I'm going to try to, I want the traitors gone, but I'm also going to be like, kind of how Janelle is like, I'm always going to look out for myself. I'm getting the shield. I'm going to take care of myself.
What I would do is I would play kind of dumb guy, which is kind of what like Bergie and Kevin have been deemed as, like non-alpha dumb guys have kind of been their thing.
Like, you're not alpha.
Yeah, he's like, what the fuck? But I'm just saying, because of that, everyone goes, oh, Bergie and Kevin, they're not traitors.
Yeah, and it's like how they're being with John now too. They're like, oh, he's just sweet little John. He's old.
Exactly. So if you kind of act a little bit like not good at this whole thing, so if you don't try to convince people of anything, but you're just kind of like, okay, I actually wrote down what I would do.
Oh, you wrote it down, but you're acting all like you don't know what you would do, but you actually like have a full theory.
I wrote down kind of what, like that's what I said, I'd act dumb, but here's what I would do. Okay. Here's how, because you don't want to act dumb and quiet, because even the more quiet you can get a little suspicious.
Yeah.
I would talk a lot, but about the wrong things. So I'd be really interested in like what they're serving for dinner. I'd ask everyone like their situation. Like I'm saying, if I was a traitor, I would do this.
Oh, okay.
If I was a traitor, what I would do is I would go around and go, dude, are you guys' bed good? Like mine sucks. Like I would talk nonstop, but about nothing that has to do with the show, to where I'm having to constantly cut my parts. So that everyone's just thinking I'm chilling, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
so I'm going, did you guys try the food? It was so good. Like my blanket, do you guys have extra blankets? I'm freezing. Are you guys cold at night? So they're like, shut up.
Yeah.
But he's never kind of like trying to get us to rally around someone. He's never trying to get us to rally around someone might be a traitor or not. He's never trying to convince us of theories, but all he talks about is shit that no one cares about. So he just thinks he's like a bumbling idiot. Therefore, I would just fly under the radar.
I think that's a good call. The only thing you'd have to be careful of is you can't get too annoying. Because like Tamra is getting really annoyed with Kevin,
but it's not
and
making her
like,
want to like. It's one. No. But
she literally is like
she
so
said,
annoyed with him, and she's
only want to vote him off because he's
judge.
annoying. That is not enough to waste a vote on.
But I do think like it's working because people have been voting for Kevin. I think people are getting annoyed with Kevin, which by the way is so like surprising to me because nothing about Kevin annoys me.
I know.
He's always talking about that he's eating constantly.
It's like the Ekin Sue thing. Everyone's like, oh, she drives me nuts. And
I was like, both of them seem like really just like, I'm like, they're just like, they're both hot. They're both hot. And
maybe that's a little bit of it, you know, like get rid of the hottest people.
Yeah, because as reality stars, you're like, it's all a competition.
But I do think my thing is effective.
It is effective, I think.
Because it's like you don't want to be too quiet to where they start doing the Dan thing. And they're like, you're too quiet, you're too mysterious. Mm-hmm. So you want to be a part of it, but a part of it in a way that doesn't scream you have motive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd try that.
Because genuinely Bergie, if he was a traitor, would be the perfect traitor.
Bergie's always written off as like there's no way that guy's a traitor.
Bergalicious could not be.
The Hamburglar.
Burgalicious, when he ran off, when he came out of the graveyard, and Phaedra's like, Burgalicious.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't even catch that, to be honest with you. No.
Burgalicious.
No, that's funny. But anyway, that's my strategy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue.
So he ends up picking Dan and Phaedra. off the top, I know we're going to get into like the more nitty gritty.
Yeah.
But I want to say this. Here are my 2 thoughts so far on Dan and Phaedra as traitors. Number 1, Dan, if I was in the house, Dan would feel sus to me.
I feel the exact same way.
I don't know if they're editing it to look a certain way.
I'm sure there's a little bit of that.
But now granted, he's been brought up now numerous times.
And he's been told, he's been brought up in like a, you're quiet.
Because my issue with Dan would be like, I get there's a quiet person in the house, but when anybody's kind of like, hey, well, why haven't you given your opinion? Dan's always just kind of like, well, I'm just holding off. I'd be like, why haven't you come up with something to say? Like, say something.
Yes.
Throw out somebody's name.
Develop kind of a personality.
Yeah. Or come up with, like, you have to, at this point, start to come up with someone that you'll throw around, or like per week be like, well, you can even do the whole, I don't really want to say them because I don't have evidence, but like, I guess I'm kind of feeling Max. Do you know what I mean? But the fact that he gives no opinions until they're at the round table, I'd be like, I don't know. You feel sus to me.
It's interesting because I even saw that, in my personal opinion, happen to Parvati. Before she got selected to trade sides,
right?
She was a lot more, in my opinion, outgoing and chatty. Once she became,
you get more.
She did a lot more of this, looking around, kind of doing the eye.
Oh my god, she does like this like gorgeous kind of like.
She does this like pouty, like, who am I to slay tonight? But you know what I'm saying? Before that, she was a little more just kind of playful there, and then she kind of changed her personality a little bit. So I guess
I didn't really notice that so much. Yeah.
And he's acting quiet. So I do wonder if just being a traitor makes you feel like you really have to think about everything you do, as opposed to just forget it and just be in the moment.
Okay. Yes. Now, this is why we'll move to Phaedra. Why I think Phaedra is going to be the most successful traitor.
Okay. Phaedra
has been in that house. She is so charming and funny and friends with everyone. Right. She's gone up to everybody and she's all just like, oh, hey, baby, you're going to be good. Hugs for everyone. Being like kind of a crying shoulder on, wiping away Deontay's tears. Like, she is present, but not too present. Right? She's not like doing a Larsa thing where she's like, here's the deal, everybody. This is what's going down. She doesn't draw attention to herself in that way. She's just like the super likable friend.
Yeah.
And that's why then I felt like when Parvati got chosen by them to join their crew, and even Dan had the reaction too. Dan was like, you're a fucking traitor. Like, he couldn't believe Phaedra was a traitor. And right away, Parvati was like, looked to Phaedra and was like, you're doing amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone suspects Phaedra.
Yeah. She's got like mother energy too. So there's just kind of calm vibe. She doesn't feel, she's very low on the anxiety energy. Also,
yes, I'd feel comfortable wanting to like sit and chat theory with her because she's like very relaxed. She
not desperate. She's not trying to do anything.
Yes.
Also, I will say, episode 4 with the blowout between her and Parvati, that probably really helped Phaedra, because Parvati is looking a little more suspicious the more that she's kind of trying to come at people and do the housewives thing, and I think we need to kind of check them out, and then that kind of created.
I think more people are just suspicious of Parvati in general because of her winning Survivor and her energy.
And so I think that their beef actually helped Phaedra, because now there's no way they can be in cahoots. You know what I mean? So
yes, and the way then Phaedra handled that, and she was just that round table where she was like, do not come for the housewives, honey. Yeah. Like, do not do it.
Now, one thing I will say is it is interesting. We're starting to see the crack in the Traitors.
I know, we're going to get to, which I'm like, I didn't even think about that. Until like this 4th episode. And now I'm even more invested. Do you know who did, though,
and has thought about it from day one? Is Dan.
Dan's
always kind of been like, oh, let's bring in Parvati because she's hot right now. People are thinking she might be a traitor. So if we bring her in and they're right, we kind of get them off our scent.
Dan?
And he does the same about Phaedra. Going like, I don't know, something's up there. Me and Parvati got to go in on Phaedra. Like, he's always kind of putting.
Dan is a sketchball, and I mean that in a positive way, like, because it's a show. But like, I started noticing by the 4th episode that I'm like, this guy is getting whoever he wants eliminated
via
manipulation.
It's funny because
he does it in such a way where he's like, well, but whatever you think, but like maybe
it's even getting me.
Me too.
Because I'm looking at it
saying.
going, Dan's like the worst one by a mile. But then you look at it and you're going, wait, every person that suspected him is gone now.
I would be, that's
like,
true.
whoa.
I would be sus of Dan in the house. But also I wonder if in person he could just manipulate me. Like he could just convince me.
And the fact that no one has put together that every single person that suspected him is gone now.
Yeah.
That to me by now, you would have been like, okay, let's look at this. Who's gone and why are they gone? And you're like, wait, every single one of those people said Dan looks sus.
Yeah. Now I will tell you this. If I was one of the other traitors, anytime Dan wanted someone gone, I'd be like, sure. Because then I'm like, it's going to look more like it's him. It's going to turn more heads towards like, well, eventually they're going to figure out,
then
right?
you would do the Ekin-Su thing, and then that threw off everybody. Oh, she didn't actually.
He didn't do the
Parvati.
Ekin-Su
That worked
thing, though.
perfectly for him.
For him, I know.
It got right off the scent.
God, it's so good. Okay, so
sorry guys. The reality is this:
it's going to be all
you try
over.
to go. You try to go, but when you know what's happening in the 4 episodes, like
I know.
it's hard not to connect everything. So I just think that we do our best, but at the end of the day, like you just watch the 4 episodes so that we're all in that thing together.
Yeah.
But it's going to be impossible to not connect.
But we're going to try to. We got to go through the storyline though here. Sure. So they have their round table and he chooses Dan and Phaedra. So he does a little tap on the shoulder. Now, what's interesting about this moment is you right away start to see some of the personalities come out because immediately Janelle is like, John, you were breathing heavy.
Yeah. And they did highlight that. He went,
yes.
And it's like either he's the dumbest character on the planet or he literally has no idea. Or he did it on purpose, or he has no idea he was breathing.
But also, I'd be doing that the whole time too. I'd be holding my breath because I'm so nervous about like if he's gonna tap me, that I don't react. So then when he doesn't tap me, I'm like,
it's worse if you do react when he doesn't touch you, because then you get cast out and you don't even get to participate. So it's like, hold your breath.
I know.
You know what I mean?
But right away, the eyes are then looking at John because they're like, well, he was breathing and, you know, he said like I was asthmatic, da 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 da. And then the other one is Larsa. Now, this was so interesting to me. Larsa immediately.
Who has the best hearing in the world, by the way? She's like, my hearing is incredible.
I can hear a pin drop.
It's like a funny thing to brag
Larsa
about.
immediately is like, shoots her hand up. And is like, by the way, everyone, I have incredible hearing. And 100% he tapped this person next to me. And it was Parvati. Which, by the way, he didn't, because Parvati at this point is not yet a traitor. And she's just full out, that's her theory. And she's just going with it, which is wild to me. She literally is just like, I don't care if this bitch gets sent home immediately. Like, I swear to God, I heard it. And that's who I'm voting for. Like, that was the energy, like starting to spread the rumor immediately.
I heard the jacket rustle.
I heard the jacket rustle. I feel like,
jeez, what are you, Spider-Man? Or I don't know, who's the, it's like, who's the one that can see things? It's like, yeah, you're a superhero? Yeah, I knew because I listened for the jacket to rustle. It couldn't just be him going like this when he walked.
Maybe he just moved.
I love
by.
when people get like way too braggy about like their senses.
Yeah. I have elite hearing.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
You're like, all right.
Ridiculous.
But it made me think, if I was a traitor, I would have done that. I think that would have been my game. I would have right away been like, I know who it is.
Yeah.
And been brazen.
Right.
To think that like, okay, are people gonna right away look at me and go, she's super outspoken, we should get rid of her? Or is it like, oh, they're leading, you know, someone's like, I don't know.
No, there is this thing, if you're really comfortable
calling people
out, then it looks a lot less like a traitor. It's the people that don't say much and then occasionally say something
that's what I'm
that
saying.
are the sus. But if they're accusing everyone all the time, then there is this kind of like, I don't know who the fuck they are.
I think I would go for that. Like right away be like, I think it was her. I heard it. And just start accusing people. That would be my traitor move, I think.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, in that way, Larsa was very much not a traitor. It was just every episode, it was like 4 different people she's accusing. You know what I mean? It was just everyone's on the chopping block.
Everyone was. But then they end up having their first mission after this. And everyone's starting to become sus of everyone.
Looked cold. Looked freezing.
This first mission, it's the puzzle pieces in the lake. And I'll tell you what, I would have drowned. Like straight up. When I was watching them, they were having to swim a lot.
Yeah, they looked tiring.
Not only that, then they go, before you put the puzzle pieces together after like taking this boat from one side to the next.
Gotta run back.
No. we're tying you up first.
Oh, right.
So they tie everybody up. Janelle immediately gets out of that tie.
Yeah.
Spectacular. Doesn't help a soul.
Gets the shield.
Bolts for the shield. It's villainous vibes. I feel like
No.
I'm like, do it.
No,
it's a
game
show.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite of villainous vibes.
Well, no, I know if it's
It screams,
suspects.
I need the shield.
Right. Which is
what Dan used as a fake off. But you probably wouldn't think of it first action.
That's very
it's kind of something
true.
that develops.
That's
so
very
if someone
true.
screws everyone to get to the shield, nothing screams I need the shield more than that.
That's true.
That would have been an amazing first play as a traitor.
But the problem is this: what it does also do though is it makes you unlikable to the rest of the faithful
Everyone's
people.
called her selfish sins,
and then you don't want to help your friend.
Sure,
you don't have like any sort of loyalty to this person because you're like, oh, you've been selfish.
But I still don't understand this loyalty thing that everyone's talking about.
I know. I don't
like,
get.
You don't know anything, so how could you be? What is this loyalty? Like even when like Sandra was being loyal to
CT and
Dan, I think. And it's like, why are you loyal to them?
You don't know if they're traitors.
You have no idea. Like, what is this? And then there's like the housewives sticking together. Like, there's a lot of like kind of who's on whose team at this point. I'm going, I don't understand how you can't trust a soul.
I wouldn't trust a single one of you.
Even the traitors, you can't trust each other because they're going to start. You have to turn on each other at some point.
That's true. Well, everyone starts to get untied. Of course, Bergie, I was dying. Bergie is the only one who can't get untied.
Dude, there's like 60-year-old women with grandchildren out of the ropes, and this like 25-year-old like strapping young man is stuck. There's something so funny about that to me. Running around, they got out, and he's like, help! And nothing locks you more into like not traitor energy. And all he does is talk about how much like he can't. I don't know. I'll figure this out, and I hope I'm not a traitor because I won't be able to hide it. And like, incredible.
But you know, they were struggling during this challenge, and then at the very end, I mean, literally, they had 1 second left to spare.
Yeah,
and it definitely seemed like CT and Bananas really led the crew and got it organized that they were able to put this puzzle together. And in the last second, they lit it up, which means that they got the money. But then also a few people got the shields. So Janelle got a shield. CT and Deontay jumped out of the boat and swam hard and got those shields as well. And then also in this moment, we find out that the traitors will be coming up with their own recruit. So not only do we have the two traitors, we have the knowledge that they will be deciding on another traitor. And then we go back to the manor. This is where a big pivotal moment happens. Everyone's having chit-chat conversation. There's a group hanging out, which includes Peppermint and Trishelle.
Oh, right.
This moment made me turn against Trishelle for forever, just FYI. Because Peppermint says, I hope I stick around. I have some really fabulous outfits I want to wear. And then Trishelle goes, me too. And then points to Peppermint and says, if I get murdered, she's the traitor.
Because they were like competitive over like showing the outfits. I
don't even know. It came out of nowhere. And that's why then Peppermint's reaction, by the way, Peppermint laughs and goes, what? Because it was so random. And I think it has to do with the fact that they both like their outfits.
Yeah.
But then for it to go to, I have fabulous outfits, to pointing in front of a group and saying, if I get murdered, it's her. Peppermint laughs and is like, what? And then kind of gets quiet because of course you're in the moment going, you just now, even though you're quote unquote joking, made me suspicious to a whole group of people.
Yeah.
And this is where the Peppermint banishment begins. Trishelle starts running her mouth to other people and saying, I don't know, guys, it was so weird. Peppermint just like had a crazy bizarre reaction to when I was like just joking around, and she like she freaked out, which I'm like, are you absolutely joking? She literally laughed and said, what? Because you had a joke that made no sense.
This is kind of where I went, and I know she's not a housewife.
Trishelle isn't, no.
But I was kind of like, this is where the housewife thing actually is going to, like, if you're used to gossiping a lot.
Yeah,
right. Which is what the housewife franchise literally is.
Yeah,
is
true,
like going to dinner, talking shit on the two girls that aren't there, then them coming back and getting into huge fights and like creating drama and lies and all this stuff about each other's social life.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're a good gossiper, this show's meant for you.
It's true. You can get
because you've seen how many times you don't need much proof of anything. All you need to do is start something, and everyone will jump on because no one else wants to be associated with it, or like, it'll get the blame off me. So if I get one or two people interested in this one person, and you could see Peppermint starting to realize it was happening.
Yes.
And that's that panic sets in. And that's when you start then acting even more guilty sometimes.
Well, you act sus. Yeah.
Because now you're
like,
nervously defending
yeah.
yourself. And then remember, she misspoke and kind of said, well, why would you expose a traitor? I mean, a faithful. And then everyone, holy shit. Like, you could see the like,
I know.
No.
Which, by the way, to me, when she did that and she slipped up, if I was in that room, I'd be like, she's obviously a faithful. Because there's a traitor would not let that slip out of their mouth. Like that was just like we're having a moment, a discussion, a quick,
And Max was the only one who was just like,
honestly,
this
my
whole
king.
Peppermint thing's bullshit.
I loved that. Like the Max, our king, came through and he was like, this is all ridiculous. You have literally no evidence. You're more suspicious. Because I'll be real, if I was in that room and I hear Trishelle starting to start this rumor about Peppermint's weird reaction, I'd be like, why are you so pressed? You're trying to start this.
Exactly.
I think Trishelle was a traitor.
It was the first person that like was accusing someone in a big way.
But then the traitors end up meeting up, and then they choose, Dan and Phaedra choose Parvati as their next traitor because they said she has the reputation for being cunning and cutthroat and deceptive. And then they decide who they want to murder. This was a crazy play to me. They say that they want to have confusion, and this was my first moment where I felt like Dan was trying to push his agenda. I was like, the dude won Big Brother twice. Johnny Bananas is a massive player. And he was saying like, let's push confusion. Yeah. And I'm like, you just knocked off probably your biggest competition in as far as like how many wins someone has gotten in a gamer type game.
Yeah.
So you just knocked out Bananas, who probably would have been a very powerful player in
Big
this.
Time.
That was so jarring that Bananas was gone.
I mean, just for production
That's what
sake,
I mean.
It was just like, you guys think they would have overruled him, but the guys, we needed this guy for like 5 or 6 episodes. Like, he's so fun.
That's why I love this show, though.
It
you can
really
tell
is.
that it's purely up to them.
You get rid
because
of the 2 of the best personalities, episode 1 and 2, you're like, whoa.
And
okay.
you're like, oh, they definitely, like, they're letting the traitors make their choice. Because they 100% would have kept Bananas around.
I mean, they were dynamite television just for the few minutes they were there.
That's the thing. So then at breakfast, at this point, Parvati has gotten the request from the traitors, but she has accepted and she is now a traitor, but she still has no idea who the other traitors are, which would be a wild position to be in. Yeah. To all of a sudden have to shift your emotions and be like, I'm a traitor now.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many of you there are. Dan, another wild move where Dan started like cornering her and being like, do you trust me, to test her as a traitor?
That was interesting. He's like, let me know if anyone's saying anything about me.
Wild
Which
moves.
felt very sus. I mean, if someone said that to me, let me know if anyone's saying anything about me.
I know.
Like,
I don't know.
The hell? It's like the craziest thing. Like an innocent person never goes, hey, let me know if anyone's saying any shit about me.
But again, if you flip the logic, she's now a traitor. So now she's panicking. He's seeing her reaction to be like, because, she's not thinking that him as a traitor would be going up and saying that to her.
That's true.
So, I mean, he's kind of a genius.
He's kind of a genius, although he kind of acts like the worst one in the group when he's there, which is part of the geniusness.
I feel like he's a terrible actor, but he's a genius.
Well, I feel like maybe it's all a part of it. Like you kind of act like you don't know enough. I think he's really good.
He is. No, he's clearly phenomenal.
I think he's really amazing at getting what he wants, but making it look like it just happened on its own.
So wild. So before they find out that Bananas is killed, before Peppermint even comes in, Trishelle brings up the Peppermint thing in front of everybody. And by the way, at one point, Trishelle, I don't remember what episode it was on, but at one point Trishelle was like, I think it was right after Peppermint was eliminated.
Yeah.
Where she was like, well, here's the thing. Like, I only said it to 2 people and then 2 people said it to 2 other people.
Right.
I'm like, Cut to this scene where
Right.
you're sitting at breakfast in front of literally everybody
Yeah.
and you go, by the way, like, this is what happened with Peppermint. And she was shook to the core. I'm like, what are you talking about?
That's
You
kind of what
literally-
makes me think Trishelle's kind of more manipulative. She knows what she's doing here a little bit.
I would agree, because we have like them being part of the challenge, like there's some drama between her and CT. Like, who knows what went down?
Exactly.
I mean, definitely people know. I just
Right.
haven't watched the challenge.
No one will ever know what happened on that nationally televised production.
But I don't like her. She's snaky.
No, bad vibes for sure. But
Bad advice.
effective so far and has not been looked at.
So far, she's the only person on the cast, by the way, that I don't like.
Yeah.
I like everybody else on the cast.
No. She gives.
I don't like Trishelle.
She's giving
Sorry,
bad energy.
Don't like Trishelle.
Yeah.
But then Peppermint walks in, Bananas is killed, and then everybody turns to Peppermint and is like, so
Yeah.
she says something like, well, he's a wild character and he can't be controlled. And everyone goes, well, spoken like a true traitor.
Right.
And you see the whole group shift onto Peppermint, which I'd be panicking, right? That gossip of Trishelle's gave everyone that energy to turn on Peppermint, and everyone starts scratching their heads. So I would be so mad.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go straight into the second mission, where they're split up into 3 groups, and they have to essentially answer questions about competitors. And if they get the answer right, they get a key and they're able to move forward with their scarecrow to get to the scarecrow field and pick out, gold or shields. Now, what's something interesting again that I noted is that Alan said there are questions that you as a group answered earlier. One of the questions was, who's the most popular of the players? Deontay or Peppermint?
Yeah.
At this point, every single person goes, definitely Deontay.
Yeah.
Turns out it was Peppermint.
Right.
My guess is they filled out that form the night before and everyone was in love with Peppermint.
Yeah.
And because fucking Trishelle said that comment, all of a sudden everyone turned on Peppermint.
Sure.
But guess what? Probably the night before, she's the most popular.
Exactly.
Everybody loves her. But Trishelle put that little worm out, and then everyone all of a sudden is like, no, there's no way. And as they were unlocking it and it wouldn't work when they picked Deontay, and even that moment where Peppermint was like, I think it's me. I think I'm the most popular, but go ahead. You can choose the other one. And it wasn't.
Yeah.
Ooh. But in that challenge too, Dan was saying it was interesting to hear certain opinions from the group, one of which was, whose opinion do you value most?
Yeah.
And they had to choose between Larsa and Marcus. And everyone was talking about how much they value Marcus's opinion.
Yeah.
And how wise he is. And so Dan was kind of like, interesting. They value Marcus's opinion.
And Marcus had kind of said something about Dan. He had said like, you're quiet over there, man, or you're not really speaking up, or there was
he
something
said that
to that
after
effect.
Peppermint's elimination.
Yeah, so like Marcus was definitely kind of on the tail of Dan early on.
Marcus was for sure on to Dan. And then there's the final question: who needs to speak up more, Dan or Sheree? And everyone says Dan. And he's like, great, this question just drew everyone's attention to me, which it did, which is great writing on production's part. Yes. Fantastic writing on production's part. But they end up getting to this field of scarecrows covered in crows, obviously. Yes. Absolutely
Crow
fabulous.
life.
Crow life. And then there's gold in some, there are shields in others. John's like, let's rip the stuffing out of this wretched beast.
Yes.
It's
going nuts.
But only one person gets a shield, and that's Dan.
And that was Dan. Which was a smart play. He talked about that. But then I was like, is that a play at all? Like, of course, if he opened up a scarecrow and there's a shield there, you'd take it. Like, I don't understand how that was even like an option.
No, it's because it said at the very front of the scarecrow field, it was like the ones with the hats on have the shields. So everyone knows if you ripped that open, you were intentionally looking. You were intentionally
I was kind of wondering, I'm like,
shield.
anyone would take a shield if they got it.
Yeah,
Like, okay.
no.
So he was clearly hunting first for the shields over the money.
Correct.
Proving
it's like,
his
are you
innocence.
going to try to hunt for a shield or for the money?
Got it.
So you're going to
Got
try
it.
to hunt for a shield.
Okay, cool. That
so he
clears
went,
it up a little bit for me.
So he was like, oh, I went directly to that. So they're
Yes.
going to, feel less suspect of me, blah, 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 blah. So then in the evening, we have the round table. At this point, it's between John and Peppermint for the most part, right? Everyone's like, well, John, at one point when he was running, Tamara was like, I need an inhaler. Do you have one?
Which was a great.
It was a great.
It's a great way of checking him. And I will say, to be honest with you, we've already talked about kind of like the Peppermint thing a bunch now, but I'm going like, he looked way more guilty to me. Like all that Peppermint.
Of course he did.
But I'm just saying, like all that Peppermint had against her was one lady going, "You kind of reaction to my accusation was interesting." Versus guy breathed a lot, lied about the fact that he's asthmatic, basically, and then later on gets checked on it and is running.
I know.
Like that, of all the proof, even though it's all crazy and little, that one is actual physical proof that everyone noticed versus like
running behind him. John, I
need
an inhaler.
And he's like, I don't have one. I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, I was slightly asthmatic. I didn't say I was fully, it's like all this
as
stuff.
As a child, I was. And,
right. So it got a little just like, I don't know. It was amazing how like the group think of like, oh, it seems like there's more people leaning to Peppermint. Let's just all jump in on it, which happens every roundtable, by the way. I was going
to tell you, the group think about this show is one of the most interesting
It becomes a save yourself thing, big time.
But it becomes a very interesting social experiment to watch of how quickly one person's opinion and story can make everyone go, yeah, that's the truth. And you're like, you weren't even there.
And I think it has much more to do with, I don't want to be blamed for anything versus they truly seem like they're like, most people are just like, oh, there's 3 people voting for that person. Yeah, me too.
But that's such a powerful psychological like experiment to show that it's like, how often do we know it's the wrong, but we don't want to be in a position.
As long as we're not the ones, it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. That's kind of the message of the show.
There's some dark moments in that where you're like, oh shit, like you see kind of
see like humankind and like history, and you realize how things happen. We always ask, how could that possibly have happened? You're like, look at how easy this happens.
Because even Sheree, who was sitting there initially with Peppermint and Trishelle, and had said in an ITM or to Peppermint,
it didn't look sketchy at all.
In an ITM, she was like, no, Peppermint literally, she didn't have a weird response to it at all. Like it was a weird question and she didn't respond.
But the worm had already infected.
But Sheree votes against Peppermint.
Because it was like, I don't want to be the
else,
one.
Yeah, because everyone else had everyone else had turned.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
It's like, hey, let's let it go. Yeah.
So when they're at the round table, Peppermint immediately is like, Peppermint did the move that I think I would have done too, where she's like, I'd like to speak. And Trishelle immediately is just like, I don't know, I made a joke and I guess it was a bad joke. And she's like, yeah, don't go into comedy. It's
great.
Such good lines. But then at one point, Peppermint is like, why are you not coming to me? And Peppermint literally puts her hands like this. Mm-hmm. And Trishelle goes, don't put your hands in my face. That is disrespectful. And Peppermint's hand is so far from being put in Trishelle's face. She's literally like this. And it was just one of those moments where you're like, Trishelle needs to go.
Yeah.
She needs to go. But ultimately, they were throwing around. Max was there to defend Peppermint.
He's the only one that smelled the bullshit.
They threw around John's name. So some people voted for John, but for the most part, everyone voted for Peppermint. She does her catwalk, hair toss, which was so iconic. Mm-hmm. And then she had that moment where she was like, I'm a fan of the show. She joined. Her bigger reason was to be an advocate for the trans community.
Yeah.
And she's a faithful. And after that ceremony, we see Sheree, and she's like regretting her decision, and she's looking at everyone going like, look at what we did. Look what we did. This is when we see Deontay start tripping out, and he's like, Peppermint is such a beautiful person, and I know that feeling of having people go against you when you didn't do anything. And he's like crying.
Yeah.
Like proper crying.
Like early. Like episode 2, he's already rattled.
Well, I wonder if like him and Peppermint had a lovely relationship, like right out the gate. Like he said, she's such a beautiful person, like inside and out. And he seemed like connected to Peppermint. And so I wonder too, if that was like a big like shake up for him.
At the same time, it's like, she's just off the show. It's not like...
It's the psychology.
No, but I'm saying it's interesting. This early, it's one thing if it's like we're at the last episode and we're crying. It's like early Deontay was rattled by this whole process, being like, maybe I'm not cut out for this.
Yeah, no, for sure. Trishelle continues to take no accountability. She's just like, well, it didn't happen because of me. She literally made a comment. She didn't happen because of me.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to feel so bad if this is the case. Oops.
Unbelievable. This is though when we see Marcus talk to Dan. And they're all sitting together. And Marcus is like, Dan, you're awfully quiet. Mm-hmm. And his conversation directed at Dan, people start talking. saying the sus ones are the quiet ones.
Yeah.
This starts beginning the feelings with Dan. And when they have their traitor turret conversation, when Pavarti finally meets them and is shook that it's Dan and Phaedra.
Parvati?
Pavarti.
I
always say Pavarti.
Is that cheese? Havarti is cheese.
Parvati, thank you.
I was like, they have a charcuterie
I keep wanting
board?
to say Pavarti. Not Parvati. Parvati.
Oh, I got to correct you on a name. That might be the first ever. Felt good.
But this is when Dan right away is just kind of like, yeah, I think it's got to be Marcus.
Yeah.
And he gets who he wants. He wants to.
Strong.
Yeah.
That was a strong murder.
And that was another strong one because Johnny Bananas was such a massive gamer and everyone was listening to what Marcus said. And again, Marcus and Larsa seem to really kind of have their finger on the pulse of like the energy of what's going on.
They're the ones that have always kind of smelled it.
Yes. So at breakfast, when it's announced that Marcus is gone, of course, Larsa is like, devoed.
Yeah.
But she's like, now it is time for me to discover who the traitor actually is. And this is when Max starts acting strange, in my opinion.
I just don't know what happened. He was playing it so well before.
I know.
And then all of a sudden he literally went from like killing it. And like even the fact that he stood up to the group about Peppermint was a very proving he is.
Yeah, it was a good play.
Like, it was a good play because it made whenever you go out on a limb protecting someone, it feels very like, oh, why would you stick your neck out to save someone? You must be a faithful. But then all of a sudden he's doing shit like where he walks into a room and the people are talking and he goes like like the most suspicious shit I've ever seen in my life.
As a professional dancer, he's literally moonwalking out.
He literally, and he's doing back. Oh, never mind. Like he would literally, people like, what'd you say? Nothing. Never. I didn't say anything. Never mind. Bye. And would run away. I was like, do you want to go home? Like, did he get a call being like, my wife's pregnant or something and I got to get out of here? Like, he literally went from being so good to literally just going like, oh, I didn't say anything about a traitor or that I'm one at all. Like, it was so weird.
It was so bizarre because at the top of breakfast, he was kind of like, oh, I'm going to start observing everyone. And he's like, I'm not going to get involved, but I'm just going to observe everyone. And it's like, he took that way too to heart.
Literally. Like, oh, don't get involved. I'm not involved over here.
And I'll be real, when like Deontay started saying, I think it's Max later, I was like, I would have thought the exact same thing. Max started acting so bizarre. Like, it was literally like, and then they'd be like, come on, sit down. He's like, no, I'm good. And just would disappear into like a wall.
So weird. So strange.
He started practically like dressing up like the books in the library and just being pinned up against like, the wall. It's just like, what are
behind
you
a
doing?
curtain, like, you know, like when curtains like bunch up in the corner, he's behind it like this, but you can see his shoes. Like that was him. You could see his shoes while they were talking. And you're like, what are you doing? And he's like, nothing. I'm not listening in on conversations at all.
They're like, Max, we see your dancing shoes. Yeah. We can hear your taps.
Yeah. So random.
It was so bizarre. But while he starts acting weird, this is then when Larsa and Janelle and some of the women in that crew are like, it's a man.
Yeah.
And we think it might be Dan. And they start turning on Dan. And it's like Larsa picked up where Marcus left off. And it's like, I think this might be Dan. We're then told by Alan that they're going to have a night mission. They're going to have a night mission.
Yes.
And they go to a graveyard. And essentially they have to dig up treasure and bust through these graves to get treasure or shields.
Bergie's shining moment.
It's his shining moment because we have a spotlight and everyone, if the spotlight hits you, you get eliminated. Yeah. Okay. Bergie's sitting in the back.
He's like, I see the pattern. Like, shut up, nerd. And then like 5 more people die. And they're like, maybe we should listen to the nerd. What do you got for us, kid? And he's like, there is a pattern, I suspect. And then it works perfectly. And it was like, it was a moment. You got to contribute.
Bergie seeing that pattern was literally everything.
It was amazing.
To me. Like, you see him, like all the lines are coming together in his brain. And he's like,
the X's and O's of the Matrix.
It's a pattern. It's a pattern.
Like it's like, I've cracked the code, the safe. And everyone's like, shut up.
And then he gets the pattern.
Yeah.
And Bergie takes the lead. And at one point in an ITM, he was like, it was so precious. He's like, yeah, you know, even through high school, like I just feel like I have to be improving myself and people don't see me as a leader. And like
I was able to contribute.
I think genuinely best moment of his life.
Honestly.
I think the graveyard mission.
That would be very satiating. If you had like
So
25
invigorating.
people that are like can't figure it out, and then you
And
just
they're
crack
gamers
the code,
too,
and
yeah.
they're gamers, and but you're able to bring in the. Yeah, it was good.
Oh no, I'm like, if I were Bergie, I'd be bringing it up every 5 seconds.
Yeah, he's like pretty crazy what I did out there.
It'd be like, I'd just be sitting in the manor later and be like, oh, notice that pattern on
see
the
that?
wall. Oh, speaking of patterns.
Life's a pattern, truly.
But that was the best moment of Bergie's life.
Yeah.
And I feel like after that moment happened, there was a shift in Bergie.
Oh, really?
Because was it
A little more swagger.
the next, was it the next round table, I believe, where he right away goes, I think it's about Dan, where he right away goes, so he starts the conversation. He goes, okay, so Dan, your name has been floating around a lot, so just start. And I was like,
yeah, that
I'm
was
like,
interesting.
okay, Daddy Bergie. Like, Daddy Bergie came in.
Bergie's leaving Kevin in the beta male tank alone. He's a they're beta fish, and he's like, I'm getting out of here. I'm swimming with the big dogs. He's like, all right, Dan,
It was truly
arm wrestle
incredible.
me right now.
It was truly incredible. I was just like, I don't know, watching
Yeah.
Bergie blossom, the blossom of Bergie.
It was the girl in the high school movie where she takes her glasses off, and everyone goes, what?
Bergalicious.
Bergie goes, so prove yourself.
And that's when he got the nickname from Phaedra, Bergalicious.
Bergalicious.
So
I
Bergalicious
love
is
that.
out here. Bergalicious
Uh-huh.
is blooming. And best day of his life. And Tamara gets a shield and Pete gets a shield.
Yeah.
And then we have a final moment where Janelle. Now, I rewatched this 4 times because I was like, am I wrong here?
Okay.
But what it has looked like to me is that Janelle is going into the graves. And I think she says to Pete, hey, can you help me with this?
Yeah.
And then she grabs something and she grabs the shield. And right as she's grabbing it, Ekin-Su like body slams her on
Yeah.
the side and tries to dig in and grab it first.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it looked like when I
Sure,
rewatched it. Ekin-Su, then in ITMs, and then with the men later in the cars, is like, Janelle yanked it out of my hands.
Right. Right.
And starts kind of this rumor where I'm like, I don't know from Ekin-Su's perspective how that could even, it had to be like a blatant lie. Like,
Sure, but
she literally, she's down there and
Right.
Ekin-Su like barrel rolls
But
her
I
to try
still
to grab
don't understand how it was relevant to anything other than just like a little tiff between two people. Like, remember Deontay was like, can you explain it? What happened between you two and stuff? And I'm kind of going like, why is this even like a plot line? Like, them both trying to get the shield does not prove one is guilty of being a traitor.
Okay,
You know
see,
what I mean?
I disagree with you. So when they're sitting so they end up getting to the round table
Yeah.
later, right? And Deontay's eyes are on Max. So everyone's like, Max, you've been acting bizarre.
Which he so has.
Which he so has. And they say, why are you acting so weird? And then Max brings up, he's like, I think the people that you need to be examining are between the Janelle and Ekin-Su situation. Because Ekin-Su is saying that one thing happened and Janelle's saying that a completely different thing happened. If I would have been there and seen that Ekin-Su fully is lying, I'd be like, why would she lie about that? Unless she's trying to make people
think that she really needs a shield.
She really needed a shield and that Janelle swiped it from her. Which then makes Ekin-Su look sus, like a traitor to me. I thought that was actually, out of everyone, was like, oh, that makes sense to me. I would have voted Ekin-Su too. Why is she trying to convince people that Janelle yanked something out of her hands when that didn't happen?
I didn't look at it like she was trying to convince. It was almost like she knew that Janelle was going to talk shit. That's the vibe I got. It's kind of like talk shit before someone else talks shit so that at least it looks even and
Sure.
like they can't start a rumor
But
about
if you're
you.
a player, you go, oh, if I try to act like I need this shield, I pretend to kind of grab it last minute and then say this person tried to yank it from me. Then people are like, oh, she needed a shield and she didn't get it, blah, 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 blah.
But either way, okay, that person, what if Janelle walks around and goes, she tried to get the shield from me? It's like, oh, okay, that still proves she wants the shield.
I understand, but I'm just saying I think it makes it look like Ekin-Su might be lying to try to make herself seem less like a traitor. That's how I took it.
It feels like a reach to me.
Maybe.
It feels like a total reach. I don't understand how it has to do with anything. But that was the one where I was like, I don't even understand why we're talking about this. Like, why they're making this a deal. Why is this like a deciding factor? Why at the round table this matter? I do not understand.
I don't think that it was a huge moment, but I think when all of a sudden everyone sat at the round table and they're like, Max, you're weird. Max was like, well,
well, that's what happened, because Ekansu even said, like, why are you talking about this? It has nothing to do with
But
us.
I followed that. I don't know. I follow Max's logic. I don't follow why he started acting like guy behind the bushes all of a sudden.
I followed his logic when he put the blame off of him. I thought that was smart. He kind of tried to make it happen and it didn't happen. But But the actual argument made no sense to me. I was like, that'd be like saying, you guys fought over dinner this morning. It's like, okay, what does that have to do with who's the traitor? Like, you both fought over what every faithful wants.
Yeah.
It's not like Ekansu offered the shield to someone else and someone heard it and they're like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? It was like, I don't know.
No, I hear you.
Didn't make sense to me.
Well, in that same round table, they're pointing fingers at Max. He tries to redirect with Ekansu and Janelle, which some people bit, by the way.
Yeah.
Some people bit and voted for Janelle.
Yeah.
We see Phaedra. Phaedra votes for Ekansu.
Yeah.
But then the other one is that MJ, Larsa, that crew is like, Dan.
Yeah.
You're being weird.
Yes.
You're being weird, Dan. And Dan's just like, I'm sorry, it's just my personality. I'm a quiet guy.
But he said something great. He goes, I'll work on it. I know. That's a great way to do it. That's like, I'm helpless. I can't
you know
do
what
it.
else he did that was good? He goes, I just don't want another Peppermint situation where I'm just pointing fingers with no,
with no but standing. He's really good.
Smooth. It was
He's
smooth.
really good.
It was smooth. And but their noses now are really on to Dan, and they were real vocal about it. But ultimately, Max does get the boot,
and it destroys Deontay.
And Deontay
he leaves.
He like goes
over.
Ah!
Yeah, he's like, oh God, and then he's on the couch like crying, and then he leaves. He didn't even do like an exit, like I can't handle this. They just go, by the way, he's gone now. I'm like, I was blown away. Even I forgot who it was. It might have been Phaedra. Just said like, he is very emotional. Like he just said like, this is too much for him. Like he's not cut out for this world.
Like, but what I mean, I will say though, he was the one
the champion to get him out of there.
Or propelled it. Excuse me,
big time.
Because there was a line that he said where he was just like, Max, the way you move is of a traitor. The way you smile is of a traitor.
Yeah, he kind of said it
You're
like Alan Cumming. You know what I mean? The pun for their inspection. The
way you smiled, 'tis of a traitor.
Yeah, 'tis of a traitor. Yeah, it is funny.
So he did really propel that.
He went
though.
hard.
So I would have felt really bad too.
But yeah, but it's I know
it is what it is, but you're like,
shocked.
shit, man. Yeah.
You see the other people body it like it's nothing.
Yeah, no,
They're like, oh shit, sorry.
Well, but he said, he was like, my heart can't handle it. He literally was like, my heart, he is so precious, I can't get over it.
He's
like I
so
absolutely
sweet.
love
It's
him.
funny, I know him from the boxing world, and he's like insane.
You mean like how good of a boxer he is?
Well, no, also just like the stuff he says a bunch of wild shit. Obviously it's marketing. That's what they all do. But you just wouldn't assume, like they talk crazy shit on each other during these boxing, post conferences and stuff. So you would think that this wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Well, this shows you his true, precious, sensitive heart.
Little heart, yeah.
I just love it so much. But then we ended up finding out, not until the next episode, that he just leaves.
Literally,
we don't see him exit.
Packed up that
he just
night
is like, I'm out. Like it's too much on his poor
heart. An Uber and was out
He's
of there.
out. He's absolutely out of there. But then we find out that the traitors this episode are not going to be having a secret meeting at the turret. In fact, they must murder in plain sight.
Yeah.
They find out that there is going to be a poison chalice in the library in one of the Shakespearean tragedy books and plays, and they're going to have to pull it out in front of people and then get someone to drink from said chalice in front of them.
And Phaedra just didn't participate, which was just wild.
No, this was the ultimate move.
I was like, how did you just get out of this?
No, because Phaedra, in my opinion, is the best of the traitors. She took away, literally when they said, hey, we got to meet up and somehow get this chalice. This is the fact of the matter. They were talking about how hard it is to meet up without people noticing.
Right.
So if I was one of the traitors,
like,
what Phaedra did,
3 people too
I
many.
would have said like, hey guys, I tried to get out, but like I was around so many people, I couldn't get to the library in time. And then your hands are like blameless in the situation where no one can pin it back to you.
Agreed. But then as another traitor, I would put a target on her because it'd be like, she's in it for herself. And me and you, Parvati are like kind of having to work on this and do all the work here. She's clearly choosing that like she'll not have our backs here. So in my opinion, there would be like if I am not contributing enough, they're going to turn on me.
I hear you, but you're right. I think, but lucky for her, Dan and Parvati lived for this moment.
Right. They wanted to do it.
This was like Parvati was like, I'm so good at this shit. And she is.
Yes.
Because they got in and out of that library. She's the one who found the chalice too.
Yeah.
Dan just slinks out. And by the way, another moment when Parvati and
Dan found where it is. Remember, he went into the library.
Yeah, but he didn't find the book.
But it was awesome. But she was the one that volunteered to do it too. She's like, I don't want to.
She's like, I'm the Black Widow. I'm going to do this.
Amazing.
But if you notice in that conversation, Dan was like, okay, well, here are a few options, and threw out a couple options. But then was like, well, it could be John, but John is a guy, and that would probably like have them look at me a little more.
Yeah.
It could be MJ.
Yeah.
But like, then they'll look at me.
Yeah.
What about Sheree? And Parvati's like, Phaedra's gonna get so mad. It can't be Sheree. And he's like, okay, whatever you want, but like these ones, and the way he like, and then she's kind of like, okay, sure.
I'm also so confused by the whole Phaedra like Sheree thing. I'm like, wait.
I think they're just really good friends.
They're just friends? So that's why they're sticking around?
I would do the exact same thing. I'd protect my friend until the end.
But like Phaedra is a traitor and Sheree's not, so it's like also this.
I know, but I'd be like, if I'm in Phaedra's shoes, I'd be like, well, if they banish me, I want my friend to win.
I think that's why you got to love Parvati though, because she just cut Ek and Sue down, and they were totally homies. You know what I'm saying? So it's like she is zero loyalty, full cutthroat. So it's like
watching Parvati move in this situation with that chalice. It was like, is the CIA watching?
And it was amazing too because they discovered it later, like they knew it was a drink or food, and Ekansu never put two and two together that she was straight up handed a drink from Parvati.
And at one point, Trishelle's even like, someone offered me something to drink and I can't figure out what it is.
I can't remember it.
And the way that literally Parvati moved, it was like a spider.
It's almost like Faceless Nameless. You know?
She walked through and she's like, I'm the bartender now. And her just ideas to get someone to drink out of this. That would have been
so hard. Not like you don't think it sounds that hard, but then you actually like it's a random cup that doesn't match any other cups, and you got to get someone to drink out of it.
How do you do it?
Unless you, the only thing I could have thought of is like serving a bunch of new drinks. If you were like making a drink, there was a couple people. Can I make you?
But that's what she attempted to do, and nobody bit.
And it's like now you're like.
And then she was so smart too because she goes, "What would you like? Should I put it in a bottle, a chalice, a wine glass?" Like, and she offered different options and
just hoping.
I mean, I swear to God, the CIA has to be watching this exact episode and be like, someone recruit this woman. Yeah. It was literally like watching Mission Impossible, which is a movie, but it's like real life. Right. Those are the moves she made. Yeah. The way she moves was incredible. It was so gorgeous to watch. It was just like liquid watching this person. Really good. And then when she gets to that room and she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And she sees Ek and Sue, and Ek and Sue, says like, we're going to get them. And she's like, yeah, cheers, and fake cheers to the air. And she's like, you can take it, and just hands it. Knowing when you're all drinking, everyone has drinking wine, you kind of go, you can have it to someone. And if someone's a little tipsy, they're a little bit like, oh, sure. And they'll just start drinking it. Genius. Ek and Sue drinks it. Boom.
It was so smooth and natural.
So smooth to the fact that breakfast the next morning, Parvati walks in first with Dan and Phaedra. Dan and Phaedra have no idea.
Dan was like in the room and didn't even notice.
Standing right next to her. And they had no clue what happened. And they're like, did you poison someone? And she's like, you guys didn't see that? And she fully got away with it. But then we end up having a brain buster because everyone walks in, including Ek and Sue.
And they're like, what?
And they're like, what's going on? Alan Cumming lets us know it's a slow acting poison. Yeah. And one of you is currently dying in this room right now.
Right.
One of you is dying in front of us. And so we're going to all get in our funeral clothes and get dressed for this funeral. And it's wild because no one suspects Ekin-Su at all.
Zero.
And the traitors are not thrilled because as soon as Parvati says, it's Ekin-Su that I chose, Phaedra, oh Lord, not Ekin-Su.
Because
Ekin-Su.
She had said something about Parvati.
Oh Lord, not Ekin-Su,
right.
not Ekin-Su. No, because she had mentioned something about Ekin-Su.
Yeah.
So she's like, great, now the target's on my back because I voted for Ekin-Su and it was kind of random. And now Ekin-Su is going to be dead.
Yeah.
So they do the entire, the gorgeous funeral.
It was amazing. That whole walk was amazing.
It's unbelievable. They had everybody, they had to answer questions about the different people.
Right.
And the more questions they got right, they were able to put those specific people into the carriage and say, hey, it's not going to be them. So then we're left with the final three. Is it going to be Ekin-Su, Parvati, or MJ? And
Everyone
they make them
MJ.
get in their caskets. And what's wild is having to think about how you would act through that shit.
Yeah.
If you were one of the traitors, if you were Parvati, having to stand there and act like you're about to get eliminated.
You literally have to just disassociate. You have to just go forget you're a traitor.
I mean, but how do you do that?
I don't know. I'm just saying you almost have to do that where you're just forget you're a traitor so that you can just kind of act supernatural and not be trying to do double.
It was wild. And they all then put black roses on who they believe was about to pass. And every single person put one on
Even
MJ.
the traitors, they sacrificed the money just for
You got to.
Of course, yeah.
And everyone put the black roses on MJ. And then turns out it was Ekin-Su.
Yeah.
Everyone is shocked.
Yeah, everyone's like, they're either super smart or the dumbest people ever. We can't figure it out. Little do they know that it was the only option, so they just had to do it.
Right, and Dan said this
Perfect
might have been our
Dan.
best elimination because it caused the most confusion.
And perfect for Dan because it made everyone, if there would have been anyone, he was already had eliminated anyone who was smelling him, but if it would have been someone more on his tail, then it could have really sealed the deal.
Oh, 1,000%. It worked. Everything kind of turns up for Dan.
Everything turns up Dan.
Everything kind of turns out Dan.
Yeah.
And everyone too is I heard Pete in the background go, MJ's a traitor.
Yeah.
Because it's why?
How could that possibly happen?
How did Ekin-Su get murdered?
When we all knew MJ
and we
should have
thought
been murdered.
MJ was the one that was for sure going to be it. But then we go back to the manor and, Larsa is doing the whole it's a man. I can tell it's going to be an alpha man.
She's the most confident. She reminds me of Ember with poisonous snakes. Have we talked about this?
Oh, no, we haven't.
Oh my gosh. I'm bummed. I wish this would be early in the episode because it's such a funny story.
We were at this reptile exhibit thing, and Ember is just pointing at the different, she knows a lot about animals.
Of course.
So she's going and pointing at the different snakes and lizards and talking about what they are. And then she just walks up to this one and she goes, this one though, I know it looks poisonous, but it's not poisonous at all. She spins away and walks in a different direction. And I look at the little plaque that describes the snake and it says most venomous snake in all of South
It's a black
America.
mamba, which is one of the most poisonous snakes. And she's not poisonous. That's Larsa. She's just and him and them, and it's an alpha male. I know it's CT. I know it's this person. I know it's this person. Just wrong every single time.
But she does have it right, though. She has the right energy.
She's sniffing Dan.
But she sniffed Dan last time.
But she doesn't say it in a way it could be. It's always I know for a fact it's this guy, this guy. It's it's so funny. It's
I just love that it's just he's an alpha male.
Yeah, and not Kevin, that little beta. It's gonna be a big bad boy CT. And CT is I don't know what's going on. CT has not shown one moment of big alpha energy. He's just been kind of cruising.
And then also
it's so
at one
funny.
point she was just well, I know it would be this way, and Kevin's just kind of you think that I'm so insecure that I would
start killing off all the men because I'm afraid of them. And she's maybe he's well, I think you're very annoying, which was a very schoolyard way of it'd be well, I think you're a butt face and no one likes you and you have a stupid haircut. Everyone's okay. That was his MJ response. It was so funny.
So funny. But yeah, so she's starting to like get that in the air, and that's then when Sandra tells CT and Dan that they're both being looked at as the group of women are looking at all the photos. It's here. It's Dan and CT. And I'm like, she got half of it right. She was on the right track with Dan.
She's on the right track.
Which is more so than most. Like, she's the one, her and Marcus with the Dan direction were the only two who have been getting to any right direction.
Agreed.
When it comes to a traitor.
Agreed.
But then Parvati plants the idea of Larsa, which was very smart.
Really smart, because I will say Larsa is loud.
Yeah.
And she sways a lot of people. So then...
She's convincing.
But she fucked up though, remember? Because Larsa started coming after someone, and then that's what turned everyone against her. Wasn't it? Larsa came after somebody.
I think it was her coming after CT. People were upset about it.
It was CT, yes. And
nobody was upset about her talking about Dan at first.
No.
CT got people mad.
Sandra.
Yes.
Went, that's my boy.
Yeah.
I'm not letting that happen. Then kind of went to other people and said, Larsa looks sketchy. She's going after C. I don't think it's and then now she it was clearly Larsa trying too hard to kind of rally the troops. And then
Larsa was like, what is it that I've done? And Sandra was like, everything you've done and said.
Yes. Yeah. So she just got a little too hot with the accusations, and then it kind of bit her.
Yeah. No, it's true.
But out of loyalty, which is interesting, not even out of proof. It was just you burnt too many bridges.
It was a loyalty move, but it was so smart of Parvati to put out the, hey, Larsa, get that start circulating. That was the best person, I think, for them to get circulating in the house. And then Janelle, they get to the round table, and Janelle, which I thought was brilliant, by the way, says it's something, as far as the poison goes, someone drank or ate something that was poisonous. And Larsa, after Marcus died, had everyone do a cheers and made everyone drink that suspect. And I hadn't even I would have never clocked that.
That was an amazing.
That was I know Larsa's not the traitor, but that was an amazing pull.
That was an amazing pull, because it was just it was so damning.
So damning
compared to nothing else that anyone had.
And our pilot Pete too, at that breakfast after the poison was revealed, Pete right away goes, someone must have drank something.
Yep.
I would have never.
He called
it. I just wouldn't have put two and two together in that way.
It. So the drinking mixed with Ekansu never remembering.
Yeah, what
Parvati
happened.
Gave her a drink.
And again, if she was a little buzzed too, you're not paying attention.
But the fact that she never remembered that, and the fact that Pete brought up the drink, and then the fact that what's her name brought up the fact that Janelle brought up the fact that Larsa did a cheers.
Yes.
Was ultimate.
And Pete, I don't know, man. Pilot Pete, like I said, he's in here. He's making moves. He's got good energy for this show.
When he does it, there's a correct vibe.
Whenever we've seen him say something, he seems to be really putting, even if they're the wrong things, he's putting a lot together.
He's paying attention to the group.
I don't know.
Yeah, agreed.
Peter is, I feel like, going to be a sleeper in this situation.
I think he's going to come out of the woodwork here in an episode or two.
Yeah, especially depending on who they start getting rid of.
Yeah.
But yes, of course, like we said, Larsa, she's like, it's CT. He's the head of the snake. The head of the snake. It was wild.
She just went so hardcore. It felt like they were in a court in the 1500s, and they were just like, kill him, off with his head. And they're like, why? A crow flew over earlier near his house. Kill him. You know what I mean? It had that, she just started going.
100%.
And then starting to put together analogies. He's the head of the snake.
He's the head of the snake.
Death. And CT's like, what? I haven't said anything all day.
Everyone's being so inspired by Alan over here with their gorgeous phrasing.
Yes.
But then Parvati, in my opinion, makes a risky move. And she says, well, there's the housewife clique in response to the Larsa.
Yeah.
And that's when Phaedra's like, don't come for the housewives.
Yeah.
And she is pissed. Okay. She is not happy with Parvati. It's like, now I don't think I can trust you. They end up sending Larsa home. She's not a traitor, obviously. everyone is freaking out.
Season can be going better with the fact of how many faithfuls have been killed off.
Straight up, they haven't gotten one right.
It's amazing though. It's perfect for the show because it's really building suspense.
And it's probably making them all absolutely batty.
They're like, we're completely
because
wrong.
after Larsa gets sent home, when everyone's talking, everyone's starting to panic and click up.
Yes.
Because right away, then Sheree is just like, hey, we haven't been going after the gamers. The gamers are the ones getting away with everything. And then we see the gamers talking and they're like, they've been after us the whole time. It's the housewives.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the house is dividing and it's going to start getting
How much money do you win?
It just depends on how much you get in the pot. Is it
50,000 beginning or is it all about the pot?
It's all about the pot, but the pot can, I think, reach, and I bet they get you to a point where you do hit the pot, $250,000.
$250,000.
So a traitor can take $250K away, which is huge.
Right. But
so this is
just a traitor. It can't be a faithful.
It can be a faithful,
whoever is left standing, right?
Right, but I don't know then how many then faithfuls are left. That then it's split up again between however many people.
Got it.
But then a traitor could take it all away.
Right.
So like as a traitor, I'm very motivated to win.
Right.
Because I'm like, I could win singularly $250,000.
Depending on also how rich you are. Like Deontay Wilder is probably worth like $80 million. Like he's probably like, okay, like whatever, versus like one of those, like someone that won a show 10 years ago could probably really use the money comparatively. So it is, it's, you know what I mean? Like it's always interesting when they like have a certain amount of money, like certain shows are like 80 grand and you're like, this guy has like he's a famous soccer player. Like I don't think it's going to move the needle for him.
Yeah, I'm like, if you put us in there, I'm like, I'd be cutting down everybody left.
Yeah, like, fight for my life.
There are no allegiances here. But we're then left with Phaedra and Dan and Parvati coming together. And Phaedra, at first when Phaedra was like, do not come for the housewives, I was like, oh, is Phaedra playing it in to act to then
I was wondering the same
distance herself from Parvati to be like, oh, you're gonna put
someone in my direction, I'll put them off me by fighting with you,
right? And also like then not make people suspect that we're together. But she was not happy, and so that's how the end of episode 4 ended, where it's like that was not beefing. Okay.
Yeah,
and this is where you go, what's gonna start to happen with the traitors? Because like you said from the beginning, Dan has been like, well, let's get Parvati because then I could use her as bait here.
Yes.
And then at one point, Parvati was like, well, I'm not ready to like sacrifice Dan yet. So they're all playing.
Yep. 100%.
You know what would be wild is because I feel like Dan and Parvati have been the ones kind of lining themselves up to cut one of the other traitors. Yeah. What if Phaedra does it first? That would be badass.
That would be good.
That would be badass.
Oh, well, I've had a good time. I'm excited.
I love this show so much, and I am so really excited to start watching the other episodes because literally as soon as we finished episode 4, Ember was like, she needs
so
more.
Good.
So family, thank you again so much for suggesting this to us. I just love this so much.
It's really good.
Like it's just the best.
Yeah, it's really, really good. But we'll see you Friday for the Circle.
Tune in on Friday for the Circle, people. I cannot wait. It's going to be so good. I cannot wait. And then our next recap of the Traitors will be out not next week, but the following Wednesday. Yes. Well, we love you. We'll see you on Friday for some more reality TV and some wild shit, I'm assuming, with this new Circle
100%.
season.
All right. Love you.
Love you all. Bye.